Chapter 11:19. Arriving at the City Lord's mansion. I'll talk. In the face of death, Xie Chang's little schemes were thrown to the back of his mind. He hurriedly said, "Actually, when you first entered Lingtian City, the City Lord's mansion sent us a message to test your cultivation and strength. It seems like it is as Fan Tai said, the 9 Furnace Divine Pavilion's headquarters have moved to Lingtian City." Ning Yu frowned slightly and muttered. Without a doubt, the City Lord's mansion was definitely occupied by the 9 Furnace Divine Pavilion. The reason they were noticed as soon as they entered Lingtian City was probably because Fan Tai's aura had caught the attention of the 9 Furnace Divine Pavilion. However, there was one thing that Ning Yu was puzzled about. Since the 9 Furnace Divine Pavilion noticed Fan Tai's aura, why didn't they send people to stop him? Instead, they sent people from Lingtian City Square to test him. Thinking of this, Ning Yu said calmly, "Do you have any way to call the City Lord over?" "The City Lord is not in Lingtian City right now," Xie Chang answered honestly. "Early this morning, the City Lord left Lingtian City with 3 mysterious black-robed men. As for what they went to do, I don't know." "Left Lingtian City with 3 black-robed men?" Ning Yu asked. "How old are the 3 black-robed men?" "2 of them are old and the other one is a bit younger, about the same age as you." Xie Chang thought for a moment and said, "Do you know where the City Lord and the others went?" Ning Yu continued to ask. "I'm not too sure. After all, when the City Lord and the others left Lingtian City, they didn't meet with me." Xie Chang said, "You guys stay in this room for now. Without my permission, you are not allowed to take half a step out." Ning Yu stood up from his chair and walked straight out of the room. Plop. As soon as Ning Yu and the others left, Xie Chang and Hu Hai sat on the ground, panting heavily. To be honest, the pressure that Ning Yu gave them was too great. Supreme Realm. At this moment, they realized that the cultivation of Ning Yu and the others were all at the Supreme Being realm. Even though they knew the exact cultivation levels of Ning Yu and the others, they did not dare to inform the City Lord Mansion. A Supreme Being wasn't someone they could afford to offend. Since Ning Yu asked them to stay in the room, it was better for them to stay in the room. After all, they were only at the Yin-Yang realm. They couldn't participate in a fight between Supremacy Realm martial artists. Sho. On the streets of Lingtian City, countless figures were quickly walking. Ning Yu, the Dark Emperor, the Talisman Marshal Venerable, Yun Mu. Their destination was the City Lord's mansion. The departure of the City Lord and the 3 black-robed martial artists meant that the 9 Furnace Divine Pavilion was relatively empty. The 9 Furnace Divine Pavilion had a total of 4 Great Elders. Of them, the Great Elder Shen Tu Hao had died in battle, and the other 2 elders had left Lingtian City with the City Lord. As expected, there was only one powerful elder in the City Lord's mansion. It was the best time to go to the City Lord's mansion. "Who is it?" After flying at full speed for more than 10 minutes, Ning Yu and the others finally stopped in front of the City Lord's mansion. There were 2 middle-aged men standing in front of the City Lord's mansion. When they saw Ning Yu and the others, they immediately berated, "Unrelated people, leave as soon as possible. Otherwise, don't blame us for being impolite. Ning Yu, they are people from the 9 Furnace Divine Pavilion." The Sword of Evil's voice sounded in Ning Yu's ears. Fan Tai followed beside the Sword of Evil. Ning Yu believed in the Sword of Evil's words. Cough cough. After coughing twice, Ning Yu said, "Go tell your elders that an old friend has come to visit." "What old friend? I think you are here to cause trouble," the middle-aged man on the left coldly shouted. His figure flashed, and his right hand clenched into a fist. His fist brought with it an extremely violent Yuan Qi gale as it fiercely punched towards Ning Yu's head. The middle-aged man's aim was to kill Ning Yu, so he did not hold back. However, the middle-aged man had clearly underestimated the strength of Ning Yu and the others. His body flew 30 feet away. Before his fist could touch Ning Yu, his body was sent flying, and he smashed into the wooden door behind him. Catcher. The wooden door was broken into 2 halves. Poochie. The middle-aged man's aura rapidly dropped. In a short second, he fell from the peak of the Yin-Yang realm to the true martial realm. Not good, the enemy is here. The other middle-aged man was not a hothead. His cultivation was only at the late yin-yang realm. Even his companion, who was at the peak of the yin-yang realm, could not approach Ningyu, let alone him. The middle-aged man immediately turned and ran towards the city lord's mansion. As he ran, he shouted, "Stop! Fart!" Before he could finish his sentence, the middle-aged man spat out a mouthful of blood. His body fell heavily to the ground, and he fell face first into the mud. Sword of evil, seal off the city lord's mansion. Leaving behind these words, Ningyu's body gradually turned illusory, and in an instant, he disappeared from sight. Crash. Although Ningyu had quickly killed the middle-aged man's words still caused the entire city lord's mansion to be in an uproar. Countless figures rushed out of the room, surrounding Ningyu and the others. So many people. As his eyes swept over the surrounding martial artists, Ningyu's mouth opened wide. He felt a little incredulous. The Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion had really turned out in full force. The surrounding martial artists were not very old. Most of them were in their 20s or 30s. Although they were young, their cultivation was not low. Creation realm. 80% of these martial artists were at the creation realm, the remaining 10% were at the yin-yang realm, and the remaining 10% were at the supreme being realm. No. Suddenly, Ningyu seemed to have discovered something. His eyes revealed a shocked expression. These peerless geniuses seemed to be different from ordinary people. Pa. Ningyu slapped his head and said, "I know, their consciousness is blurred. They should be under some kind of control. Who dares to trespass into the city lord's mansion?" An old man slowly pushed through the crowd and appeared in Ningyu's vision. This is the fourth elder, an early 7th grade human supreme. The Sword of Evil's words rang in Ningyu's ears again. "I am the person you are looking for." Ningyu asked doubtfully, "I am a little curious. Can the Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion's 9 Cauldrons Hunting Order be issued to anyone?" 9 Cauldrons Hunting Order. Hearing Ningyu's words, the old man said in a deep voice, "You are Ningyu." "Correct answer, but there is no prize." Ningyu shrugged. "There was a path to heaven, but you chose to barge into hell." "Good, very good." The corner of the old man's mouth curled up. "Today, I will let you know the meaning of cruelty. Let me ask you, why does the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion have to oppose me? Logically speaking, there was no unresolvable enmity between me and the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion." Ningyu said with a wave of his hand. There was indeed no enmity at first, but ever since Die came, the entire 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion has united our hearts to capture you. Chapter 1120. Die, what condition did Die give you to make you all so crazy? Ningyu was puzzled. Most of the experts from the 9 Cauldron Divine Pavilion were in the supremacy realm. The old man in front of him was even an early 7th grade sovereign. The condition that could drive the old man crazy was probably not low. "Why should I tell you?" The 4th elder raised his eyebrows. Die only said that he would bring you back. He didn't say whether you would live or die. As soon as the word live fell, the 4th elder stomped his feet on the ground, and his body flashed out. The 4th elder was a 7th grade initial human sovereign. His speed was extremely fast, so fast that he disappeared in a flash in everyone's eyes. Pa. Suddenly, a muffled sound rang out. Everyone watched as the 4th elder's body plummeted to the ground like a kite with its string cut. Fortunately, there were only experts from the 9 Cauldron Divine Pavilion around him. Otherwise, the 4th elder's fall would have turned him into a retard. Fart. Even so, the 4th elder still spat out a mouthful of blood. His aura, which was originally at its peak, became extremely weak. Who is it? Not only was the 4th elder's aura weak, but his expression was also extremely ugly. He was an early 7th grade sovereign. Even he didn't realize that there was someone in the void before he attacked. One could only imagine how powerful the hidden martial artist was. "You don't need to know who it is." Ningyu's voice rang out. "All you need to know is that if you don't answer my questions honestly, your fate will be sealed today." "I won't say anything." The 4th elder snorted. "In half an hour, Die and the other 2 elders will rush back. When that time comes, you won't be able to escape. Ningyu didn't care about the fourth elder's words at all. He said calmly, "If I'm not wrong, these peerless geniuses from the Nine Cauldron Divine Pavilion have all swallowed a pill called the heart-controlling pill." Nonsense. The fourth elder's face was gloomy as he scolded. "I'm very puzzled. Why have all these peerless geniuses of the Nine Furnace Divine Pavilion swallowed the heart-controlling pill, but as an elder, you didn't?" Ningyu's tone was emotionless as he said, "I gave you a chance, but you didn't know how to cherish it." As soon as he finished speaking, Ningyu's body gradually became illusory. Bang! In the blink of an eye, Ningyu arrived behind a peerless genius of the Nine Furnace Divine Pavilion. His right hand pushed out. A crisp sound was heard as Ningyu's fist landed on the back of the peerless genius. Shio! The peerless genius spat out a pill from his mouth with a cold white light. Ningyu's eyes and hands were sharp, and he grabbed the elixir firmly in his hand. Waving the white pill in his hand, Ningyu told the fourth elder, "I'll give you one last chance. Tell me Di's identity and cultivation base. Otherwise, this heart-controlling pill will enter your stomach." Damn it! Why hasn't this heart-controlling pill been refined yet? The fourth elder cursed as he looked at the white pill in Ningyu's hand. He wished he could strangle that peak good fortune realm genius to death. Before Die left, he had given him all the heart-controlling pills. However, he had failed to completely refine one of the heart-controlling pills. And now, this heart-controlling pill was about to enter his mouth and be refined by him. This was terrible. "Go. Everyone go. No matter what, we must kill Ningyu." The fourth elder roared like a madman at this critical moment. All the geniuses of the Nine Furnace Divine Pavilion had swallowed the heart-controlling pill. Without his orders, they would not take the initiative to attack. The fourth elder knew how terrifying the heart-controlling pill was. Once he was forced to swallow it, he would be under Ningyu's control. This was something he could not accept. Kuala. As the numerous geniuses of the Nine Furnace Divine Pavilion heard the fourth elder's words, they all moved. Their target was Ningyu. Cut. Facing the encirclement of so many geniuses, Ningyu immediately took out the red demon sword and slashed out several sword lights. The power of the sword lights was so great that these geniuses didn't dare to approach. "Old fart, it looks like you're not being honest." Ningyu's eyes flashed with a horrifying light. He tore through the void and appeared beside the fourth elder. His right hand heavily struck the fourth elder's chest and his left hand threw the heart-controlling pill into the fourth elder's mouth. Then, Ningyu forced out a drop of blood essence and placed it between the fourth elder's eyebrows, completely controlling him. Bang! As soon as Ningyu controlled the fourth elder, the surrounding geniuses of the Nine Furnace Divine Pavilion stopped their attacks. Sword of Evil, Xielan. These Nine Furnace Divine Pavilion geniuses all have heart-controlling pills that have been refined. You should know what to do. Towards these geniuses of the Nine Furnace Divine Pavilion, in truth, Ningyu didn't want to kill them all. Sooner or later, he would have to leave the Grand Xia Empire. With so many geniuses of the Nine Furnace Divine Pavilion here, they could be responsible for the safety of the Ning family. The Sword of Evil and Xielan understood his intentions. They forced out the heart-controlling pills from the bodies of these geniuses one by one. Luckily, the Sword of Evil and Xielan were both 8th grade mortal supremes. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to expel the refined heart-controlling pills from their bodies. In a short 10 minutes. In the courtyard of the City Lord Mansion, the 40 to 50 peerless geniuses of the Nine Furnace Divine Pavilion had all returned to normal. "Where is this? How did we end up here? Who are you? Weren't we at the Nine Furnace Divine Pavilion headquarters? How did we end up here?" After returning to normal, the many geniuses of the Nine Furnace Divine Pavilion seemed to have lost 3 to 4 days of memory. Their memories stopped at the time before the Nine Furnace Divine Pavilion headquarters moved. In other words, it was 3 days ago. "I know. This is Ningyu. I've seen his portrait before." Suddenly, a second-grade mortal supremacist's eyes widened as he pointed at Ningyu and shouted. Boom! The words of this second-grade mortal supremacy caused a huge uproar in the surroundings. They had always been instilled with the idea of capturing Ningyu. Whoever captured Ningyu would be able to enjoy a terrifying amount of resources. Now that Ningyu was right in front of them, these geniuses of the Nine-Furnace Divine Pavilion instantly went crazy. Kill. As long as we kill Ningyu, we can become Die's favorite. Ningyu is mine. None of you can snatch him from me. I'm currently a peak 3rd grade mortal supremacy. After killing Ningyu, I can advance to 4th grade mortal supremacy. Why is Ningyu yours? Die said that everyone who participates in killing Ningyu will have a chance to increase their cultivation. These geniuses of the Nine-Furnace Divine Pavilion were close to going crazy. Ningyu, what should we do? The Dark Emperor moved closer to Ningyu when he saw how fanatical these geniuses were. To be honest, the Dark Emperor was a little afraid of facing 40 to 50 geniuses. These geniuses were different from ordinary cultivators. They were all peerless geniuses that the Nine-Furnace Divine Pavilion had plundered. Each of them could fight 1 against 2. The Dark Emperor did not want to make unnecessary sacrifices. Nothing. Ningyu rolled his eyes at the Dark Emperor and said in a clear voice, "All of you have a chance to live. Those who want to live, stand on the left. Those who don't, stand on the right. Those who stand in the middle, how do you want to deal with them?" Chapter 11:21. To forsake darkness for light you finally appeared. You're faster than I expected. Ningyu frowned as he stared at the sky above the City Lord's mansion. Catcher. A crack appeared in the space, and 4 figures flew out from the crack. Swish, 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 swish. Among these 4 figures, the martial artist at the front was about the same age as Ningyu, around 20 years old. As for the 3 figures behind him, one was without a doubt the City Lord of Lingtian City and the other 2 were elders of the Nine-Furnace Divine Pavilion. Die, save me. Save me. When he saw Die and the rest, the 4th elder howled like a madman. It was as though hope was right in front of him. Ningyu, strictly speaking, you are a member of the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. Ignoring the 4th elder's cries for help, Die's aura locked onto Ningyu and said, "The reason why I came to the Great Xia Kingdom is to find you." To find me? Ningyu was a little confused. He had never heard of Die before. Hehe, you might not know me. Let me introduce myself. I am Die from Emperor God Palace. As if he could guess what Ningyu was thinking, Die chuckled. Emperor Divine Palace. Hearing these 3 words, Ningyu finally understood. Back in the Beast King Palace, Venerable Yang of the Supreme Nine Purities Temple once said that his mother in this life was supposed to be engaged to the Palace Master of the Emperor Divine Palace, but who would have thought that his father, Ning Hai, would appear out of nowhere? In the Sky Demon region, the Emperor God Palace was one of the top forces. To them, having their marriage annulled was a great humiliation. If it weren't for the fact that the Patriarch of the Supreme Nine Purities Temple was still alive, the Emperor Palace would have attacked the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. Although the Ancestral Patriarch was a deterrent, the Emperor God Palace couldn't take it lying down. All these years, they had been sending people to look for Ningyu and Ning Hai. Die's position in Emperor God Palace was very high. His main purpose for coming out this time was to train. His secondary purpose was to capture Ningyu and bring him back to Emperor God Palace for punishment. Are you going to surrender, or do you want me to help you? Die crossed his arms in front of his chest and stared at Ningyu with interest. You've reached the 2nd grade mortal sovereign realm at such a young age. Not bad at all. In the Divine Emperor Palace, most of the cultivators at your age are at grade 1 human sovereign. It's really not easy for you to cultivate to grade 2 human sovereign in a remote place like the Great Xia Kingdom. If I'm not wrong, your cultivation is only at grade 3 human sovereign. Since Die did not conceal his aura, Ningyu could clearly tell that Die was a grade 3 human sovereign. With Ningyu's current battle strength, he could kill a grade 3 human sovereign in an instant, unless he encountered an extremely abnormal grade 3 human sovereign. Of course, some grade 3 human sovereigns were very abnormal, and it wasn't difficult for them to challenge those of a higher level. A grade 3 human sovereign who could challenge a grade 4 human sovereign could be considered an absolute genius. A grade 5 human sovereign who could challenge a grade 5 human sovereign could be considered a genius of the 2 absolute geniuses. Someone like Ningyu, who could challenge a grade 7 human sovereign with his grade 2 human sovereign cultivation, was a genius of the 5 absolute geniuses. In other words, Ningyu was only below average among the 5 absolute geniuses, because he still couldn't win against a late grade 7 human sovereign. According to Ningyu's guess, Di should be at least a genius of the 5 absolute geniuses. I'm a grade 3 human sovereign, and you're only a grade 2 human sovereign. Isn't it natural for me to defeat you? Di raised his eyebrows, and in a flash, he appeared in front of Ningyu. Di's eyes shone with a frightening light as he clenched his right hand into a fist and punched towards Ningyu's chest. Ningyu felt a chill in his heart when he saw Di's terrifying fist. He quickly circulated the energy in his sea of consciousness and wrapped it around the phantom armor. Bang! Di immediately retreated the moment his fist came into contact with the phantom armor. Armor. Di's lips curled into a smile as he retreated a few meters. He said in a sinister tone, "I'm getting more and more interested in you. You even have such a heaven-defying armor. You're not simple. I'm sorry, but I'm not interested in you." Ningyu said, "We've always minded our own business, but you're always going against me. Since that's the case, I'll have to spar with you." "Ha ha ha, you want to spar with me, but your friend doesn't seem to want to." Di laughed maniacally as he pointed at the Sword of Evil and Xielan beside Ningyu. "It seems like you don't understand what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you'll only be qualified to spar with me if you defeat my friend," Ningyu said slowly. "Ningyu, if you don't dare, just say that you don't dare. Why do you have to make it sound so grand?" The second and third elder of the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion scolded in unison. If they weren't afraid of the Sword of Evil and Xielan, they would have made their move long ago instead of waiting until now. "Since the two of you are so righteous, why don't we spar?" Ningyu shifted his gaze towards the second and third elder. "Let's spar then. Who's afraid of who?" The second elder took a step forward and looked like he was about to make his move. "I'm just afraid that some people might not be able to defeat me and ask their friends to step in." The third elder still had his reservations. After all, the Sword of Evil and Xielan were both 8th grade human supremes. He didn't dare to act recklessly. "Don't worry. If Di doesn't step in, my friend won't." Ningyu waved his hand to indicate that the second elder and the third elder could rest assured. When Di appeared just now, the Sword of Evil and Xielan had sent a message to Ningyu at the same time. Di was too terrifying. In other words, there was something terrifying on Di. If even an 8th grade human supremes found it difficult to deal with, then the item on Di was definitely not simple. What the Sword of Evil and Xielan needed to do now was to keep an eye on Di at all times to prevent him from suddenly going berserk. Di, the third elder, still didn't trust Ningyu. He shifted his gaze towards Di to seek his opinion. "Don't worry. Ningyu's friend won't dare to make a move." Di interrupted the third elder. "You and the second elder are both early-stage 7th grade human supremes. It's a little cruel for the two of you to join forces to deal with Ningyu. How about this? Let's fight one at a time to avoid an unfair advantage." "It's fine. It's only interesting if the two of us fight together," Ningyu replied. "I don't believe that you're also one of the 5 absolute geniuses." Di's eyes flashed coldly. He took a deep breath and said coldly, "Second elder, third elder, play with Ningyu. Remember, injuries and deaths are unavoidable in a battle. Whether you live or die will depend on your own luck." "Understood." The second elder and third elder nodded. They moved at the same time, one on the left and one on the right, surrounding Ningyu in the middle. "Wait." At this moment, Ningyu extended his right hand and said, "The 4th elder of the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion has renounced the darkness for the light. He wants to join the battle and deal with you with me." "Renounce the darkness for the light." The second elder revealed a doubtful expression. The 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion had never renounced the darkness for the light. There was only life or death. Chapter 11:22. Helpershio. Right at this moment, Di's figure flashed and appeared beside the 4th elder in the blink of an eye. Bang! He clenched his right hand into a fist and punched the 4th elder's heart with a violent yuan qi gale. A muffled sound rang out. The fourth elder's body was like a kite with a broken string as he heavily fell to the ground. You. The fourth elder's eyes widened and he pointed at Die with his right hand. He opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but before he could say anything, his eyes rolled back and he died on the spot. My apologies. After killing the fourth elder, Die said apologetically, continue sparring. I'll take care of all external factors. Voila. This sudden change not only caused the second and third elders' expressions to change, but it also caused the hearts of the surrounding geniuses of the Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion to skip a beat. Their original plan was simple. They would wait for Die to return before they joined forces to deal with Ningyu. But now, not only did Die not attack Ningyu, he turned around and attacked them instead. Second elder, third elder, you don't want to fight. When Die saw the hesitation of the second and third elders, he said, Fourth elder, I've already helped you solve this problem. If you don't want to help, I can only go. The second elder and the third elder were not fools. Die had already put it this way. If they still did not make a move, they would not have a good ending. Instead of facing the powerful Die, they might as well join forces to deal with Ningyu. Ningyu was only a second-grade supreme martial artist. No matter what, it was impossible for him to be as powerful as Die. Dealing with Ningyu was the wisest choice. Without any hesitation, the second elder took the lead and the third elder followed closely behind. Their target was obviously Ningyu. Universe Palm. Looking at the approaching second elder, Ningyu's essence surged out from his sea of consciousness. His right hand formed a seal and suddenly pushed out. Rumble. In mid-air, a palm print appeared. The palm print grew from the size of a palm to 10 times its original size. Chen. Die squinted his eyes and was shocked. Die's attention was drawn when the palm seal transformed into the word Chen. In the Emperor Divine Palace, there was also a palm skill that could transform into words. Not everyone was qualified to cultivate that kind of palm technique. Even with Die's position in the Emperor Divine Palace, he was only told the cultivation method of the first move. It seems like this trip to the Great Xia Kingdom was the wisest decision. The corner of Die's lips curled up as he was overjoyed. If he could get his hands on a set of palm techniques that could transform into words, his status in the Emperor God Palace would be elevated further and he would enter the core management. Although Die was an exceptional genius in the Emperor God Palace, he had no access to the secrets of the Emperor God Palace. As long as he could obtain Ningyu's palm technique, he would definitely become a core member of the Emperor Divine Palace. Rumble. At the same time, in midair, Ningyu, second elder, and third elder were engaged in a fierce battle. Fighting 1 against 2, Ningyu was not at a disadvantage at all. In fact, Ningyu even had a slight advantage. In the face of Ningyu's palm prints, the second and third elders felt very strained. His cultivation is only a grade 2 human supreme martial artist. Why is he so strong? Second elder did not dare to be careless when fighting against Ningyu. If he was distracted, he might be killed by Ningyu. Compared to second elder, third elder was in a much better situation. Third elder was slightly stronger than second elder. As long as second elder could survive, there was no need for him to worry. Oh no. However, third elder had overestimated his own strength. Fart. Ningyu waved his hands and tore through the void, appearing behind third elder. He held the red demon sword in his hand and stabbed forward. The red demon sword pierced through third elder's back and came out of his heart. Third elder spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face turned ugly. Even though his heart was pierced, the third elder did not die immediately. Instead, he glared at Ningyu, his eyes filled with malice. Retreat. Second elder instantly made a decision when he saw third elder's miserable state. In order to retreat as soon as possible, second elder used all his strength and quickly retreated to Die's side. The Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion does not raise trash. Just like how he had dealt with fourth elder, Die clenched his right fist and punched second elder's heart. Die's fist was very powerful. Before second elder could say anything, his eyes rolled back, and he died on the spot. Your strength is not bad. After killing second elder, Die clapped his hands and said to Ningyu, "Tell me the palm technique you used just now, and I'll let you follow behind me as my follower." "Are you sure you're talking to me?" Ningyu looked left and right before pointing at himself. "No wonder my mother broke off the engagement with God Emperor Palace. The people from God Emperor Palace are very arrogant. I'm arrogant because I have the right to be so." Die shrugged and said, "Based on your fight with Third Elder and the rest, I can tell that you're one of the 5 absolute geniuses. However, you're the kind of genius who has just reached the 5 absolute geniuses. I'm sorry, but I'm also one of the 5 absolute geniuses. My cultivation base is 1 level higher than yours. How are you going to fight me?" In the Dark Moon continent and the Sky Demon territory, it doesn't mean that the more talented one is, Ningyu said. A genius of the same cultivation base can still defeat a genius of the 5 absolute geniuses. A genius of the 5 absolute geniuses can defeat a genius of the 5 absolute geniuses. And with the same cultivation base. Die's jaw dropped in an exaggerated manner. "Are you sure you're not messing with me?" Die had asked 3 questions in a row, which showed how shocked he was at the moment. There was no division of geniuses below the honorable realm. However, once one reached the honorable realm, there would be a division of geniuses. From the 1st absolute geniuses to the 9th absolute geniuses. In other words, a 9th absolute genius could fight a half-step Earth Supreme when he was a 1st-grade human Supreme. Of course, a 9th absolute genius had not appeared in the Sky Demon territory for many years. "You can give it a try if you don't believe me." Ningyu crossed his arms in front of his chest. "You have 2 choices now. 1. Fight me. 2. Fight the Sword of Evil and Xielan. I don't even need to do anything to deal with these 2 8th-grade human sovereign trash." Die glanced at the Sword of Evil and Xielan and flipped his wrist. "Come out. 1 for each of us." Rumble. As soon as Die's voice fell, 2 rays of cold light shot out from his sleeves. After the explosion, 2 figures appeared in the crowd. "No wonder you're so confident. You have helpers." Ningyu came to a sudden realization when he saw the 2 figures. The 2 silhouettes were initial 8th-grade human sovereigns. Chapter 11:23. Mobilizing energy. Haha, I can kill a genius like you who has just reached the 5 ultimates with a wave of my hand, Die said with a smile. "Tell me the cultivation method of that palm technique. Otherwise, this day next year will be your death anniversary," Die said with a smile. "How confident are you in facing those 2 8th-grade human supremes?" Ningyu ignored Die and asked the Sword of Evil and Xielan. Die might be strong, but Ningyu was not particularly worried. After all, Die's cultivation was only 1 grade higher than his. If they were to fight, it was hard to tell who would win. The key to the outcome of this battle was the battle between 2 8th-grade human supremes. 50-50. The Sword of Evil was a man of few words and only said 3 words. As for Xielan, she did not say a word, but her expression was slightly solemn. "You're not going to speak." Ningyu's reaction made Die's face darken. If he did not want to obtain the cultivation method of the universe palm, he would have made his move long ago. Why would he wait until now? Since Ningyu did not know how to appreciate his kindness, there was no need for him to hold back. Swoosh. Die's figure flashed and he charged out in an instant. Swoosh. Swoosh. Along with Die's charge, the 2 8th-grade Sovereign Realm sovereigns beside him also followed closely behind and burst forth. The 2 8th-grade human supremes dealt with the Sword of Evil and Xielan while Die charged at Ningyu. A huge battle broke out in an instant. The Sword of Evil was right. He and Xielan were indeed evenly matched with the 2 8th-grade human supremes from the Emperor Palace. No one could do anything to the other. On the other hand, Ningyu was at a slight disadvantage in the battle on Ningyu's side. After all, Die was a 3rd-grade human supremacy. Whether it was his cultivation or talent, he was superior to Ningyu. It was understandable that he had the upper hand. What should we do? Should we make a move? As Ningyu and company's battle took place in midair, in the courtyard of the City Lord Manor, the Dark Emperor and the Talisman Marshal Venerable had ugly expressions on their faces. Opposite them were the many peerless geniuses of the Nine Furnace Divine Pavilion. The Dark Sovereign's face was gloomy as he fiercely said, "These geniuses of the Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion are very strong. Rather than waiting for death, why don't we make the first move and gain the upper hand?" The martial artists of the Nine Furnace Divine Pavilion constantly hunted down the Dark Emperor, causing the Dark Emperor to have no love for the people of the Nine Furnace Divine Pavilion. In addition, Ningyu and the Sword of Evil were fighting with the leaders of the Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion. Therefore, the Dark Emperor had the idea of killing all these geniuses. Naturally, the Dark Emperor was only a Grade 2 sovereign realm cultivator. With his strength, he wasn't strong enough to deal with so many peerless geniuses. Only with the help of Talisman Supremacy and Yunmu would he have a chance of winning. Don't act recklessly. Die has killed 2 elders in a frenzy. These geniuses won't attack us so easily. The Talisman Martial Supremacy was more perceptive and said in a deep voice. The 4th elder and 2nd elder of the Nine Furnace Divine Pavilion had both died in the hands of Die. As long as the remaining peerless geniuses of the Nine Furnace Divine Pavilion weren't fools, they wouldn't attack the Dark Emperor and the others. Is there any way to help Ningyu? Unable to make a move, the Dark Emperor shifted his gaze to the battlefield in midair. Ignoring the Sword of Evil, the Dark Emperor's attention was completely focused on Ningyu and Die. Perhaps they were testing each other, but the Dark Emperor could clearly tell that Ningyu and Die hadn't used their full strength. The strength that the two of them had displayed was only equivalent to a Grade 3 or Grade 4 sovereign realm cultivator. The best way is to wait. The Talisman Martial Supremacy shook his head and said, "Ningyu has a 30% chance of winning 30%? The Dark Emperor opened his mouth and said, "If there's only a 30% chance of winning, what's the point of fighting? Why don't we just pack up and get lost?" Sigh, a 30% chance of winning is already quite high. The Talisman Martial Supremacy sighed and said, "Die is a top-notch genius. Even in the 100-Flower Palace, there aren't many who can beat him. I said that Ningyu has a 30% chance of winning, but that's already a conservative estimate. If Die takes out something else. Not good." Before the Talisman Martial Supremacy finished his sentence, the situation in midair changed drastically. Rumble. Die took out a silvery white flying sword. The sword was 3 feet long, and the handle was blood red. The 3-foot sword. The flying sword in Die's hand was called the 3-foot sword, and it was a middle-grade monarch flying sword. As one of the 5 absolute geniuses of the Emperor Divine Palace, it wasn't strange for Die to have a middle-grade monarch flying sword. The Emperor Divine Palace was rich in resources, and any genius above the 3 absolute geniuses would be rewarded with a middle-grade monarch flying sword. All the geniuses above the 5 absolute geniuses would have a middle-grade monarch flying sword. Those who surpassed the 5 absolute geniuses would even have a middle-grade monarch flying sword. Ningyu, I didn't want to use my flying sword, but your armor is better, so I have no choice but to use my flying sword to break through it. With the 3-foot sword in his hand, Die turned into a shadow and appeared in front of Ningyu in the blink of an eye. Ding! The 3-foot sword stabbed out, and it landed right on Ningyu's chest. However, the 3-foot sword didn't manage to stab into Ningyu's body. Instead, it was blocked by the phantom armor. You want to break through my armor with a mere middle-grade monarch flying sword? You're too naive. With a smirk, Ningyu stabbed out with his sword. TSK. The red demon sword was extremely fast, and it squeezed the air until it made a sizzling sound. Stab. Fortunately, Die moved his body slightly at the critical moment. Otherwise, the sword would have severely injured him. Even so, Die's arm was stabbed by the red demon sword, and a bloody mark appeared on his arm. You've completely infuriated me. Die's face darkened, and he said coldly, "In the past, I thought that I was very strong, and I looked down on martial artists with lower cultivation than me. However, after meeting you, I've changed my mind. You're very strong. You're a 2nd-grade human supreme martial artist, and one of the 5 ultimate geniuses. You're only slightly weaker than me. I can't be careless when dealing with a genius like you. Otherwise, I'll definitely fail miserably. Today, I'll give it my all. Palm techniques, armor. I'll throw everything to the back of my mind. I only have one thought in my mind, and that is to kill you. As Di spoke, Ningyu stared at him without saying a word. After a while, Ningyu said, "Are you done with your nagging? If you really want to treat me as nagging, then so be it." Di's arrogance was gone, and he was now very mature. "Don't think that I don't know what you're planning. You're secretly mobilizing the energy in your body." Shrugging, Ningyu said, "In terms of raw power, you're only slightly stronger than me. If we were to fight, I could even use other trump cards to kill you. Therefore, you're panicking. You're mobilizing the hidden energy in your body." "Nonsense," Di scolded with a cold expression. Chapter 11:24. Battle my body is far stronger than you can imagine. As Di said that, his body started to swell up. Buzz. Di's body grew larger and larger until he was at least twice his original size. Not only did his body grow bigger, but Di's aura had also risen significantly. Initially, Di was only a grade 3 human supreme. After circulating the energy in his body, his aura shot up to grade 5 human supreme and was still rising. Bang! Bang! Two muffled sounds rang out. Di's aura rose from a 5th grade human supreme to a 7th grade human supreme. "I can't believe it." The Dark Emperor could not help but curse when he sensed the terrifying aura emanating from Di. Di was already one of the 5 absolute geniuses. Now that he had raised his cultivation to the 7th grade human supreme, how powerful would he be? What did Ningyu have to fight with him? He might as well go home and sell his sweet potatoes. No matter how much Di's cultivation base has increased, he's only one of the 5 absolute geniuses. The talisman martial supremacy knew what the Dark Emperor was thinking and explained, "All in all, Di's strength has only doubled." Puff. The Dark Emperor's eyeballs were about to pop out. Only doubled in strength. Even a talisman martial venerable could say such word. It would have been difficult for Ningyu to defeat Di before he became stronger, let alone Di who was twice as strong. Shio. Di was well aware of his body's condition. After circulating the energy in his body to double his strength, he could only last for half an hour. In other words, he had to kill Ningyu or heavily injure Ningyu within half an hour. Otherwise, when his strength dropped, he would definitely be easily defeated by Ningyu. Di dashed out and brandished the 3-foot sword in his hand, unleashing multiple sword rays. Kill. Ningyu had a serious expression on his face as he waved the red demon sword in his hand. Instantly, numerous sword rays flew out and collided with the sword rays that Di had unleashed. Kai Kai. Countless sword lights collided with each other, emitting Kai Kai sounds. "Ningyu, how are you going to block this sword?" By the time the sword radiance dissipated, Di had already arrived beside Ningyu. His 3-foot sword pierced out and landed right on Ningyu's heart. Ding! The result left Di in despair. Di's eyes narrowed when he heard the crisp sound. Di had never expected that he would not be able to break through Ningyu's armor even though his strength had doubled. His strength was doubled, and he held a mid-grade monarch flying sword in his hand. Right now, Di was at his peak condition. Even at his peak, he still couldn't break through Ningyu's armor. One could imagine how terrifying Ningyu's armor was. It isn't a low-grade monarch rank armor. Di's face darkened. He took a few steps back and shouted coldly, "The armor you're wearing is definitely a mid-grade monarch. I don't think it has anything to do with you." Ningyu raised his eyebrows. "You can't even break through my armor. How are you going to kill me?" "Me. Don't think that I don't have a way," Di scoffed. "Everyone from the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion, listen up. Capture Ningyu's friends, dead or alive. Once you're done, I can give you a large amount of cultivation resources. I guarantee that your cultivation base will increase by a level." Whoosh. The power of Di's words was still very strong. The martial artists from the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion were all geniuses. Generally speaking, geniuses had a crazy desire to increase their cultivation base. Especially with Di's identity, the determination in their hearts was starting to waver. Do you still dare to believe Yi? The Dark Emperor knew that he had to speak now. Otherwise, if he was surrounded by so many geniuses, even if he didn't die, he would lose a layer of skin. Yi is using all of you. The Dark Emperor sorted out his thoughts. All of you should know how the fourth elder and second elder died. Yi always turns his back on them. Initially, the geniuses from the Nine Cauldrons Divine Pavilion wanted to make a move. However, they retreated after hearing the Dark Emperor's words. Just as the Dark Emperor had said, the fourth elder and second elder were killed by Yi. If they were killed by Yi after helping him, wouldn't that be the end of them? It wouldn't be good for them to help someone else count the money after being sold. Good move. Yi calmed down when he saw the geniuses not making a move. He was terrifyingly calm. Ningyu, I have to admit that you're the strongest genius I've met since I left the Emperor God Palace. You're also the one who forced me to use most of my trump cards. Yi took a deep breath and took out a storage bag. From today onwards, there will be no more Ningyu in the Great Xia Kingdom. Yi tossed the storage bag in his hand out as soon as he finished his sentence. The storage bag was so fast that it appeared in front of Ningyu in the blink of an eye. It was only 10 feet away from Ningyu. Break. Ningyu's eyes narrowed as he swung the red demon sword in his hand. Crack. The storage bag was split in half from the middle. Swoosh. After the storage bag was broken, a green, chilly radiance shot towards Ningyu at a terrifying speed. TSK. TSK. The speed of the chilly radiance was so fast that Yuan Qi dissipated wherever it passed. Power of space. Ningyu's eyes narrowed as he looked at the strand of power of space that was inches away from him, and he could not help but retreat. The speed at which Ningyu retreated was obviously slower than the speed at which the power of space moved. Poof! In the blink of an eye, the chilly radiance arrived in front of Ningyu and entered Ningyu's body through the surface of his skin. Ha ha ha, Ningyu, I have killed at least 9 of the 5 absolute geniuses with that power of space. You are the 10th. Yi laughed maniacally as he saw the chilly radiance enter Ningyu's body. Is that so? Ningyu's lips curled up slightly as Yi's laughter faded. The power of space is not bad, but it's not right for you to use it against me. What's going on? Yi's mouth was agape as he saw that Ningyu was not affected at all. In the past, he had used the power of space to deal with the 5 absolute geniuses, and it had always been very effective. Almost none of the 5 absolute geniuses who had the same cultivation as him could withstand the power of space. What kind of freak was Ningyu? How could he withstand the power of space? Come out. With a thought, Ningyu opened his mouth and spat out the power of space in his body. With a flick of his wrist, Ningyu controlled the power of space and said calmly, I wonder what will happen if I use your power of space against you. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Yi's face was filled with disbelief as he hurriedly performed a spell to control the power of space. However, no matter how hard Yi tried, the power of space remained suspended above Ningyu's palm and showed no signs of moving. It's over. At this moment, Yi's face was filled with disappointment and even despair. Chapter 1125. Palace Master. Let's go. Yi was not a hothead. On the contrary, he was very smart. Since Ningyu had taken away the spatial power, he would not have a good ending if he stayed any longer. The spatial power was a very scary thing. Yi did not have absolute confidence in going against it, so he chose to retreat immediately. Buzz. He left as soon as he said he would, without the slightest bit of hesitation. His body gradually turned illusory, and he disappeared in an instant. You want to leave? Not so easy. Ningyu's eyes flashed coldly. He flicked his wrist and threw out the spatial power. Crack. The spatial power tore through the void and entered. Ah. Not long after, there was a shriek that sounded like a pig being slaughtered. Yi's vicious words were accompanied by the screams of agony. Ningyu, just you wait. I'll let you live for another 3 days. The voice became softer and softer until it completely disappeared. Retreat. Since Yi had left, there was no need for the 2 grade 8 human supremes who were fighting with the sword of evil to stay. They looked at each other and forced the sword of evil and Xielan away. They tore through the void and disappeared in an instant. Go! Go after them! The Dark Emperor shouted when he saw Dai and the others leaving. There would be endless trouble if they did not silence them. The Dark Emperor could not sleep well when he was targeted by an unparalleled genius from God Emperor Palace and 2 Grade 8 human supremes. Chase your ass! Fut! Ningyu glared at the Dark Emperor and spat out a mouthful of blood. Are you alright? The Dark Emperor's mouth was slightly agape. I'm fine. Dai's injuries are a few times worse than mine. At the very least, he won't be able to attack us for the time being. Ningyu wiped the blood off the corner of his mouth. Dai, is he really that powerful? Venerable Talisman Marshal's face revealed a shocked expression as he spoke hesitantly. The Talisman Marshal Supremacy knew Ningyu's strength very well. Even Ningyu could not defeat Dai. This showed how powerful Dai was. Let's not talk about this for now. Ningyu knew what was more important. To them, the most important thing was not to discuss how powerful Dai was, but to think of a way to solve the problem in front of them. The dozens of geniuses from the 9-Furnace Divine Pavilion were still in the courtyard. If they were dealt with well, then they would be a rare and important force. But if they weren't dealt with well, then the consequences would be unimaginable. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu's gaze swept across the numerous genius martial artists, and then he said in a deep voice, "There are 2 paths before you. First, obey me." Second, Ningyu did not continue, but his meaning was self-evident. The 9-Furnace Divine Pavilion had chased him for so long, and he had nearly been killed by their martial artists several times. Ningyu couldn't let the tiger return to the mountain when he had the strength, because he wasn't a saint. What right do you have to order us? A young Grade 2 Supreme Martial Artist dressed in green said coldly, "What the 9-Furnace Divine Pavilion wants to do has nothing to do with you." Yes, what the 9-Furnace Divine Pavilion wants to do has nothing to do with you. If you know what's good for you, then scram. Otherwise, we'll teach you a lesson. That's right. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you have a Grade 8 Supreme Martial Artist. What's an Grade 8 Supreme Martial Artist? We can kill him if we want. For some unknown reason, the geniuses from the 9-Furnace Divine Pavilion suddenly changed their minds and began to oppose Ningyu. This was something that Ningyu did not expect. There was no reason for them not to make a move when Dai was around. Now that Dai was gone, they began to oppose him. No. Suddenly, Ningyu's pupils shrank. He grabbed the Dark Emperor and Venerable Talisman Marshal and quickly retreated. Rumble. Just as Ningyu and the others took a few steps back, the area they were originally in exploded and the ground caved in. Damn it! With a low roar, Ningyu hurriedly extended his senses. Ningyu sucked in a breath of cold air as soon as he saw it. Dai did not leave. You're smart. Pushing the crowd aside, Dai slowly appeared in Ningyu's line of sight. There are Grade 8 elixirs in here. I'll help you block the Grade 8 Supreme Martial Artist on Ningyu's side. As long as you can land a punch on Ningyu, I'll reward you with an elixir. Dai took out a jade bottle and said, "I'll reward you with a bottle of elixir if you severely injure Ningyu." Whoosh. Most of the geniuses from the 9-Furnace Divine Pavilion were low-level Supreme Martial Artists. An Grade 8 elixir was extremely tempting to them. With a Grade 8 elixir, they could even improve further and increase their cultivation by a level. Good move. Ningyu glanced at the collapsed ground before his gaze landed on Dai. Both of us are severely injured. A few Grade 8 elixirs could change the outcome of the battle, he said. Hehe, I have plenty of Grade 8 elixirs. Dai smiled. There are so many geniuses in the 9-Furnace Divine Pavilion. A punch from each of them would be enough to turn you into minced meat. You're too conceited. You didn't even leave after being injured. Ningyu took out a Shenyang elixir and threw it to Xielan. One Shenyang elixir should be enough for you to deal with 2 Grade 8 Supreme Martial Artists, right? Smack. Xielan caught the Shenyang elixir and threw it into her mouth without hesitation. Crack. The moment the Shenyang elixir entered her mouth, Xielan's aura changed instantly. Even her voice changed. 1 Shenyang elixir to deal with 2 grade 8 supreme martial artists. Deal. Whoosh. As soon as she finished speaking, Xielan dashed into the void with great speed. What's going on? Xielan's sudden change puzzled Di. On the surface, Xielan's strength seemed to have increased by quite a bit. I got it. Reality proved that Di wasn't as simple as he seemed. In just a few seconds, he thought of a terrifying possibility. There was a powerful being hidden in Xielan's body. When Xielan fought with the Emperor God Palace, she was in her original body and wasn't strong enough. With the Shenyang elixir, the powerful being in Xielan's body started to take control of her body, causing her strength to increase by several folds. The Shenyang elixir is indeed a good thing. Ningyu was glad that the sapling was still producing Shenyang elixirs. Otherwise, it wouldn't be easy to get the Palace Lord to help. Even if he did, the Palace Lord wouldn't be able to unleash her full strength. Without the Shenyang elixir, the Palace Lord would only be slightly stronger than Xielan. There should be another 3 days before the next Shenyang elixir is produced. Ningyu probed the storage ring with his perception and murmured, I have to use them sparingly. Every Shenyang elixir used meant 1 less. Ningyu knew that Dan Puppet's Eastern Expedition Army was in the elixir cavern in the capital. When he reached the capital, he still needed Xielan's help to deal with the powerful Dan Puppet. It wouldn't be wise to use up all the Shenyang elixirs now. Chapter 11:26. The first sign of effect go. All of you, charge. Whoever kills Ningyu will be rewarded with a grade 9 medicinal pill. Xielan's forceful attack had forced Di to use his trump card. If an 8th grade pill could drive the geniuses of the 9 Furnace Divine Pavilion crazy, then a 9th grade pill was enough to drive them crazy to the extreme. Voila! In the face of a 9th grade pill, none of the geniuses of the 9 Furnace Divine Pavilion could remain calm. They looked at each other, then rushed out in unison. Dozens of peerless geniuses of the 9 Furnace Divine Pavilion had come out in full force. Such a battle array was truly vast. Facing so many geniuses, Ningyu stood still and did nothing. The reason why Ningyu didn't make a move was because the Sword of Evil stepped out from behind him and snorted, "Come if you don't want to die." After he spoke, the Sword of Evil released his aura and pressed down on the many genius cultivators. Pu. The Sword of Evil was an 8th grade human supreme. Under the pressure of his powerful aura, many geniuses retreated, not daring to step forward. Trash, all of you are trash. Seeing that the geniuses of the 9 Cauldron Divine Pavilion didn't dare to step forward, Di shouted, whoever dares to attack first will be rewarded with 2 grade 9 elixir. Even though Di had raised the conditions so high, no one dared to make a move. An 8th grade human sovereign was no joke. Whoever made a move would be killed. City Lord Ling, you go. Di looked towards the Lord of Ling Tian City. Me. City Lord Ling pointed at his own nose and said, I'm only at the Fate State. I'm not going. Then what do I need you for? A ferocious look appeared on Di's face. He clenched his right fist and punched towards Ling Tian's City Lord's heart. Bang! A muffled sound rang out as Ling Tian's City Lord's body flew backwards and heavily crashed onto the ground. At this moment, Ling Tian City's Lord had died in battle. The death of City Lord Ling Tian caused the many geniuses of the 9 Furnace Divine Pavilion to feel many emotions. He would die if he attacked, but he would also die if he didn't. Rather than that, he might as well take the risk. Swish swish swish. The 3 3rd grade Sovereign Realm experts gritted their teeth and instantly charged out. Their target was obviously Ningyu. I'll fulfill your wish. Ningyu's expression was very ugly. He didn't expect these geniuses to be so crazy. These people are almost brainwashed. Even if you let them go now, they will go against you in the future. Against such a person, there was only one choice, and that was to kill. Whoosh. Although Ningyu had suffered serious injuries, it was still not a problem for him to deal with a 3rd grade human supreme being. Each of the 3 swords contained a terrifying fluctuation of yuan qi. The sharp red demon sword slashed at the necks of the 3 3rd grade Supreme Realm human experts, directly cutting through their tracheas. Bang, bang, bang. After cutting the trachea, Ningyu threw out 3 punches in a row. Each punch landed on the heart of a third-grade human supreme. In less than a second, 3 third-grade human supremacies were all killed. This situation had a huge impact on the others. He beat the drum of retreat. Many of the geniuses started to beat the drums of retreat and started to retreat. Trash, all of you are trash. Di's expression was extremely ugly. Every time a genius retreated, he would use all his strength to kill him. In just a few seconds, 10 geniuses had already been killed by Di. Although Di is a genius of Divine Emperor Palace, we can't just sit back and wait for our deaths if he wants to kill us. Kill Di and leave this area. We have to kill Di, or we will all die. Di's actions had obviously angered the crowd. The geniuses of the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion began to work together to fight against Di. Rumble. Countless spells appeared, and there was only one target, Di. Although Di was injured, he was not afraid of so many geniuses. Di took out several ancient scrolls from his robes and tossed them out continuously. Every time a scroll was thrown out, there would inevitably be a rumbling sound and an explosion. Every explosion would be accompanied by the death of a 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion genius. Di had many ancient scrolls with him, so he was not afraid no matter how many geniuses attacked him. Boom. Half an hour later. There were dozens of corpses lying on the ground in the governor's mansion. Di stood in the middle of the crowd with an ugly expression. His plan had failed, and he had suffered instead. There was only one thought in Di's mind, and that was to find an opportunity to kill Ningyu. This is my last chance. I can't be careless. Di touched the last scroll in his pocket and made up his mind to use it at the most suitable opportunity. The last scroll was the most powerful. As long as he could get close to Ningyu, he would have a chance to kill Ningyu. Ningyu, you win. I admit defeat. Di raised his hands above his head and walked towards Ningyu step by step. Di's speed was very, very slow. As long as Ningyu showed any signs of alertness, Di would immediately stop and think of a way to escape. Sword of Evil, go and help Xielan. We don't have much time left. Ningyu did not seem to care about Di at all. He turned around and said to the Sword of Evil beside him. Half an hour had passed, and Xielan's situation was still very tense. Although Xielan had the upper hand in a 1 versus 2 battle, it was still difficult for her to kill 2 experts from Emperor Divine Palace in a short period of time. Be careful. The Sword of Evil glanced at Di before his body gradually turned illusory. In Emperor Divine Palace, there is a cultivation technique called the Emperor Technique. I wonder how many stages you have mastered. Ningyu watched the Sword of Evil disappear before he looked at Di. The Emperor Technique is the highest cultivation technique in Emperor Divine Palace. There are a total of 12 forms, and I have only mastered the 6th form. If you need the Emperor Technique, I can write it down for you, Di said as he walked. Stop. Write down the Emperor Technique. Ningyu took out a jade scroll and threw it to Di. Di suppressed the anger in his heart and said calmly, please wait for a moment. I have only mastered the first 7 skills of the Emperor God Technique. The Emperor Technique was the most powerful cultivation technique in Emperor Divine Palace. Similar to the Supreme 9 Purities sword skill, the first 6 forms of the Emperor Technique were the most basic cultivation technique. The first 6 forms were mainly for martial artists below the honorable realm to cultivate. Of course, some talented geniuses could start cultivating the 7th, 8th, and even the 9th form when their cultivation was lower than the honorable realm. From the 7th form onward, the power would double. It's not that easy to learn the Emperor Technique from me. A cold glint flashed across Di's eyes and quickly disappeared. The first 6 forms of the Emperor Technique were very ordinary, and Di would not tamper with them. As for the 7th form, Di could slightly modify it. Moreover, Di believed that Ningyu would not be able to find out that he had modified it. Bang! Bang! At this moment, the battle in the sky had ended. With the Sword of Evil's participation, Xielan's pressure was greatly reduced. Chapter 1127. A stranger comes along hiss. Di couldn't help but gasp when he saw the 2 8th grade human sovereigns being killed. He was even more determined to make a move on Ningyu. Di couldn't deal with Xielan or the Sword of Evil. All he could do now was to gain Ningyu's trust and capture Ningyu to threaten the Sword of Evil and Xielan. However, Di didn't dare to reveal his thoughts. Ningyu was a cunning man. If Ningyu found out about his plan, the consequences would be dire. Continue. Ningyu waved his hand when he saw Di pause, indicating for him to continue writing the Emperor God technique. As for Ningyu, he came before the 2 8th grade human sovereigns of the Divine Emperor Palace and bent down to search their bodies. After a while, Ningyu retracted his hand. There was a storage pouch in his hand. Whoosh! Right at this moment, the Dark Emperor's figure flashed explosively, and he flashed past Ningyu at an extremely shocking speed. F***CK. Ningyu knew that something was wrong the moment the Dark Emperor moved. As expected, the Dark Emperor was like a swarm of locusts. Everywhere he passed, there wasn't a single blade of grass left. Ningyu had the urge to curse as he looked at the empty space in front of him. 2 8th grade human sovereigns were taken away by the Dark Emperor just like that. The Dark Emperor was a sky-devouring hound, known as the Sky-Devouring Hound. He should be able to eat 2 8th grade human sovereigns. You'll be stuffed to death. Ningyu viciously said to Xielan and the evil sword Venerable Lord, the two of you should hide for this period of time. I will look for you when I need you. I'm fine with it. As long as I have enough Shenyang pills, I can make a move at any time. Xielan's voice was emotionless as she disappeared into the void. Be careful of Die. He definitely doesn't have any good intentions. The Sword of Evil glanced at Die. Then, his body turned illusory and disappeared. Drip, drip. Time continued to pass. Not long after the Sword of Evil and Xielan disappeared, Die said in a clear voice, Ningyu, the first 7 forms of the Emperor technique are all in this jade slip. Cut the crap. Throw the jade slip over. Ningyu interrupted Die's words. Whoosh. Without another word, Die threw the jade slip at Ningyu. Pa. Steadily catching the jade scroll, Ningyu began to carefully examine it. The Emperor God technique was a terrifying technique that was comparable to the Supreme 9 Purities sword skill. If he could cultivate it to the 7th style, he would have one more method to deal with his enemies in the future. The first 6 moves are very ordinary. Ningyu frowned when he finished looking at the first 6 moves. His hands could not help but move along with the first style of the Emperor God technique. The Supreme 9 Purities sword skill used flying swords as a medium. But the Emperor God technique was different. Anything could be used as a medium. As Ningyu waved his hands, the spiritual chi in front of him began to gather in a certain area. When the spiritual chi gathered to its peak, it turned into a sharp sword and shot out. Crack! The sharp sword slammed into the ground, creating a hole in the incomparably hard ground. Die's jaw dropped when he saw Ningyu's action. He was dumbfounded. He had successfully cultivated the first style of the Emperor God technique just like that. One had to know that he had used several days to cultivate the first style of the Emperor God technique. Ningyu's success in cultivating in just a few minutes was simply unprecedented and unparalleled. The first style is too weak. Let's try the second style. After thinking about it, Ningyu felt that since he had already cultivated the first style, he might as well cultivate the second style as well. After all, the first 6 styles of the Emperor God technique were not difficult for him. Rumble. Ningyu had a special characteristic. He would definitely accomplish something that he had decided on. He would never give up halfway. After recalling the cultivation method of the second style in his mind, Ningyu began to cultivate it. 5 minutes later, he had successfully cultivated the second style. Another 5 minutes later, he had successfully cultivated the third style. Gulp. When Die first saw Ningyu's insane cultivation speed, he was a little confused. However, as Ningyu began to cultivate the second and third style, Die changed his mind. He wanted Ningyu to cultivate the 7th style as soon as possible. This was because he did not tamper with the first 6 styles. When it came to the seventh style, he had changed a secret formula. If Ning Yu dared to cultivate according to the formula, he would definitely go berserk. Cultivate, the faster the better. When you go berserk, that will be the time I catch you. Die focused all his attention on Ning Yu. He did not dare to relax at all. Boom, boom, boom. The speed at which Ning Yu cultivated the Emperor God technique was so fast that it made one's hair stand on end. Although the speed at which he cultivated the last few styles decreased slightly, he only took an hour to completely cultivate the first 6 styles. The 7th style of the Emperor God technique, Emperor Destruction. The 7th style of the Emperor God technique was called Emperor Destruction. This style was a little difficult to understand just by looking at it. It seems a little different. Ning Yu frowned slightly and closed his eyes. He began to derive the 7th style of the Emperor God technique. Although he could not completely derive the cultivation method of the 7th style of the Emperor God technique, with Ning Yu's experience from his previous life, it was not a problem to derive the general direction of cultivation. Something's wrong. After half an hour of derivation, Ning Yu's face turned extremely ugly. Did he find out something? Die's heart skipped a beat when he saw the change in Ning Yu's expression. Ning Yu, I have only mastered the 7th style of the Emperor God technique. If you need the next few styles, you'll have to return to the Emperor God Palace with me. I swear on my honor that as long as you return to the Emperor God Palace with me, I will definitely find a way to get the cultivation method of the 8th style for you. I don't trust your character. Ning Yu threw the jade slip in his hand at Die's feet and said, this is your last chance. Tell me what's wrong with the 7th style and I will spare your life. Otherwise. Ning Yu paused and pointed at the geniuses of the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion. Your fate will be the same as theirs. The cultivation method of the 7th style is real. Die clenched his teeth. Why would I lie to you? I will never lie to you. Die slowly approached Ning Yu as he spoke. Just a little more, just a little more. Die's joy grew with every step he took. If he wanted to launch a sneak attack on Ning Yu in his current state, he would have to get closer and closer. Swoosh. Coincidentally, the Dark Emperor flew over from outside the courtyard. Moreover, the Dark Emperor was holding a living person in his hand. No, to be precise, the person he was holding was not a person, but a pill puppet. Ning Yu, this pill puppet was sneaking past Ling Tian City, and I happened to see him, so I caught him and brought him back. Chapter 1128. A moment of crisis from Danwu College. Hearing the Dark Emperor's words, Ning Yu frowned slightly, and faintly felt that something was amiss. The stronghold of the Eastern Expedition Army in the Pill Cavern was the Pill Cavern of Danwu College. Now that a powerful Dan Hua had come out of Danwu College, it meant that there was a high possibility that the Eastern Expedition Army had occupied Danwu College. At the thought of this, Ning Yu's aura locked onto Dan Kai, who was caught by the Dark Emperor, and said in a deep voice, "What's the situation at Danwu College now?" "Humph. If I'm not wrong, you should be Ning Yu." Pill Puppet snorted and sinisterly said, "The Eastern Expedition Army's #1 enemy is you. No matter where you go, you'll be surrounded by them." Pa. The Dark Emperor could not bear to see this Dan Gu's arrogance. His tail twitched and slapped this Dan Gu's cheek. There was no justice in this world for a prisoner to be so arrogant. Think of a way to pry his mouth open. I want to know the situation of Danwu College and what kind of experts there are in the Eastern Expedition Army. Ning Yu was now irreconcilable with the Eastern Expedition Army. If the Eastern Expedition Army didn't die, then he would. Therefore, Ning Yu would not hold back against this grade 2 human sovereign Dan puppet. If not for the fact that he still had some use, Ning Yu would have killed him long ago. There was no way he would have kept him alive until now. Good chance. While Ning Yu was off guard, Die was only 10 feet away from Ning Yu. This distance was enough for Die to throw the ancient scroll and deal a fatal blow to Ning Yu. Whoosh. Die reached into his robes and took out an ancient scroll. With a flick of his wrist, he threw the scroll at Ning Yu with all his might. As the scroll was imbued with a trace of Die's spiritual power, it was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, It arrived in front of Ningyu. Explode! Die shouted when he saw the scroll approaching Ningyu. Die's expression became uglier and uglier. From the initial joy and excitement, he was now dumbfounded. The ancient scroll he threw seemed to have lost contact with him and did not explode. I'm curious, isn't it? Ningyu's figure flashed and he firmly grabbed the ancient scroll in his hand. He said indifferently, I've isolated your soul power from the scroll. So no matter how much you use your soul power, the scroll won't explode. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Die's eyes widened as fear filled his face. Haha, nothing is impossible. Have you forgotten about the power of space that I control? With a smile, Ningyu controlled Die's spatial power and wrapped it around his wrist. How is this possible? Die's jaw dropped as he stared at the familiar spatial power in Ningyu's hands. He clearly remembered that when he left just now, Ningyu had already thrown out the power of space to deal with him. Why would the power of space still be in Ningyu's hands? Die, I gave you a chance, but you didn't know how to grasp it. In that case, I can only send you on your way. With a cold glint in his eyes, Ningyu stomped on the ground and dashed out. Fart! Ningyu's speed was so fast that before Die could react, he realized that there was a blood-red flying sword in his heart. You, Die pointed at Ningyu as he looked at the red flying sword in his heart. If you dare to kill me, the Emperor Palace will never let you off. I'm not sure if the Emperor Palace will let me off, but I know that I won't let you off. Ningyu said calmly. Fart! Die's face was filled with despair as he spat out a mouthful of blood and died on the spot. I've forced him out. As soon as Die died, the Dark Emperor shouted, the Eastern Expedition Army has yet to leave the Pill Cavern. They are still gathering. The first batch of 10 second-grade supreme martial artists came out of the Pill Cavern. Their goal is to find out where we are and pass the news to the higher-ups of the Eastern Expedition Army. How much time do we have left? Ningyu asked. 3 days. The Dark Emperor's expression was solemn. The first batch of 10 pill puppets is to find out where we are. 3 days later, the main force of the Eastern Expedition Army will be mobilized to wipe out the Great Xia Kingdom. There's no time to lose. Let's head to the capital immediately. Ningyu did not procrastinate at all and left as soon as he said he would. The matter of the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion had come to an end for now. As for whether the Emperor Palace would become his enemy, it was not something he could consider now. Most importantly, he had to rush back to the capital and destroy the Pill Cavern in Danwu College before the Eastern Expedition Army was fully out. That was the only way to cut off the connection between the Eastern Expedition Army and the Great Xia Kingdom so that they would not be able to launch an effective attack on the Great Xia Kingdom in a short period of time. But what should we do with so many supreme martial artists? The Dark Emperor pointed at the geniuses who had died around them and asked doubtfully. I'll inform Xie Chang and the rest of the Lingtian market to come and deal with it. After saying that, Ningyu stomped on the ground and dashed out immediately. The others are all useless. We can't let Die go to waste. The Dark Emperor's eyes darted around as he quickly came before Die and used a secret technique to devour him. After devouring Die, the Dark Emperor retreated in satisfaction. Crack! What Ningyu and the rest did not know was that in a dark palace in the heavenly devil domain, a middle-aged man slapped the chair he was sitting on and said coldly, investigate. We must find out who killed Die at all costs. There are less than 3 months left until the next genius battle on the Dark Moon continent. Who would dare to make a move on the Emperor Divine Palace at this time? How audacious! Swish, swish, swish. As the middle-aged man's voice fell, the surrounding space shook. The shaking did not last for long as everything returned to normal. The Genius Tournament that is held once every few years is organized by the Mystic Moon Sect, a top force in the Mystic Moon continent. The Emperor Palace can't waste such a great opportunity. We have to plan it well. After taking a deep breath, the middle-aged man's figure gradually turned illusory and disappeared in an instant. Dean Mu, you have to make up your mind quickly. Should we stay or leave? At the same time, in the conference hall of Danwu College, A few martial artists were arguing fiercely. The Black Widow, the Black and White heroes, Old Ancestor Ju Mo, Dong He, and 3 to 4 other Grade 1 supreme martial artists who were on the same cultivation base as Dong He. Mu Feng sat on the main seat of the conference hall with a gloomy expression. Dean Mu, what I mean is to evacuate all the martial artists in the capital and think of a way to block the Pill Cave. Dong He frowned slightly and said, I've already thought of a way to contact the people from the headquarters of the Alchemist Union. They've decided to send people over to help deal with the pill puppet. No, the headquarters of the Alchemist Union is thousands of miles away from here. By the time they arrive, it will be too late. The Black Widow said in a deep voice, in my opinion, we should do as you said just now. Evacuate everyone in the capital and abandon Danwu College. Sigh, that's the only way. Chapter 1129. Dan's possession crack. As soon as Mu Feng's voice fell, the door of the conference hall was blasted open by a huge force. Swoosh, then, several figures appeared in the conference hall. Hiss. Mu Feng and the rest gasped when they sensed the auras emitted by these people. Supreme Realm. Third-grade human supremes. The cultivation of these people were all at the third-grade sovereign realm. There were 10 of them. No, you're Dan puppets. As an alchemist, Dong He's eyes were sharp. With a single glance, he could tell that the 10 in front of him were not humans, but Dan puppets. 10 third-grade mortal sovereign realm pellet puppets. Such a formation made Dong He's heart sink to the bottom. Not to mention 10 third-grade human supremes, even if there was only one, they would not be able to contend against it. Moreover, they had already sealed the entrance of the Pill Cave. How could these Dan puppets leave? Could it be that the seal they had set up was ineffective? Gather all the yin-yang realm and above cultivators of Danwu College into this hall. The black-clothed pill puppet leader did not care about what Dong He was thinking. He said in a deep voice, I will give you 5 minutes. If you cannot gather all the yin-yang realm and above martial artists in 5 minutes, the only outcome for you is death. Go. Rumble. The roar of the Dan puppet almost burst the eardrums of Mu Feng and the rest. They had no choice but to lower their heads. Mu Feng could only follow their request and gather all the yin-yang realm and above cultivators. Dong He, think of a way to inform Ning Yu. After leaving the conference hall, Mu Feng hurriedly transmitted his voice to Dong He. Inform Ning Yu? He's not even a supreme realm. Are we sending him to his death? Dong He asked doubtfully. The last time Ning Yu left Danwu College, his cultivation had not reached the supreme realm. Only a short time had passed. Dong He did not believe that Ning Yu had advanced to the supreme realm. Moreover, even if Ning Yu advanced to the utmost exalted realm, it would still be of no use. The danger this time was extremely great. Just like that, 10 third-grade human sovereign realm pellet puppets had appeared. One could imagine how powerful the later ones would be. What was the difference between letting Ning Yu come back and sending him to his death? I can't contact Ning Yu. Dong He continued. You can first contact your disciple, Duan Cheng. Duan Cheng has always been with Ning Yu. He should understand Ning Yu's situation. Mu Feng hurriedly said. Ning Yu was a scheming person. Previously, when Danwu College faced a huge crisis, Ning Yu was able to resolve it perfectly. Although the crisis this time was much greater than before, Mu Feng still decided to contact Ning Yu first. He had to be confident. What if there really was a chance? All right. Since Mu Feng strongly requested it, Dong He could only force out a drop of blood essence and start communicating with Duan Cheng. What? 3 minutes later, Dong He revealed an extremely shocked expression. What's going on? Mu Feng asked in confusion. Gulp. After swallowing a mouthful of saliva, Dong He's face was filled with disbelief. Duan Cheng is on his way to the capital. Moreover, Duan Cheng mentioned Ning Yu's strength. Mentioned Ning Yu's strength? Just how strong is he? Don't beat around the bush, Mu Feng said anxiously. Killing a peak 6th grade human sovereign with his bare hands is not difficult. Even Dong He himself felt that it was a little unbelievable when he said that. Killing a peak 6th grade human sovereign with his bare hands was too terrifying. Are you sure you're not joking with me? Mu Feng couldn't believe his ears. If it wasn't Dong He who said that, Mu Feng would even think that he was a fool who had lost his mind. Why would I joke with you? As long as we hold on for a few more hours, Du and Cheng will rush back. No matter what, it was better to have hope than nothing. There were only 10 third-grade human sovereign elixirs in the conference hall. If Ning Yu was really that powerful, by the time he arrived, this crisis would be. Rumble. At this moment, an earth-shattering rumble came from the forbidden area of Danwu College. Rumble. The rumble grew louder and louder, spreading in all directions. The rumble lasted for a full hour before it completely dissipated. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. After the rumble dissipated, several figures tore through the void and landed in the conference hall of Danwu College. What should we do? In Danwu College, Mu Feng's mouth was agape. What else can we do? Ah, Dong He said with a gloomy expression. Before he could finish his sentence, Dong He felt his body lighten and was sent flying. Like Dong He, Mu Feng was also sent flying. The two of them were flying in the direction of the Danwu Academy's assembly hall. Bang! Bang! Not long after, Mu Feng and Dong He landed heavily in the conference hall of Danwu College. The conference hall had already changed its appearance. Black Widow, Old Ancestor Ju Mo, and the other supremes of the Alchemy Association were all kneeling on the ground, trembling in fear. On both sides of the hall stood over a dozen supreme being pill puppets. On the seat of honor, a 20 to 30-year-old elixir puppet squinted his eyes and said, "I'll give you guys a chance to live." The young elixir puppet swept his gaze across Mu Feng and the others and continued, "I'll give you 2 hours. I want to see Ningyu in 2 hours. Ningyu." Mu Feng's jaw dropped when he heard the young elixir puppet's words. He was in disbelief. This Dan Kai in front of him was at least a grade 4 human sovereign. Did he have a grudge against Ningyu? Haha, Ningyu killed many elixir puppets. He must die. The young elixir puppet smiled and said, "If Ningyu doesn't die, you guys will die. Between you and Ningyu, you have to choose one." Swish. The young elixir puppet's words made the hearts of Mu Feng and the others sink to the bottom. What the hell was that? If Ningyu didn't die, they would have to die. If they died, Ningyu could live. This logic didn't make sense at all. Right, call all the yin-yang realm cultivators of Danwu College over. We have a use for them. After a brief pause, the young elixir puppet continued, Danwu College might not have enough elixir puppets. Call all the yin-yang realm cultivators of the capital over. What are you guys trying to do? Mu Feng said in a deep voice. He didn't do as the young elixir puppet said. What? Haha, since you want to know, I'll tell you. The corner of the young elixir puppet's mouth rose as he signaled to his left and right. Crack. The figures of the 2 4th-grade human sovereigns beside the young elixir puppet flashed and instantly appeared beside the supremacy realm cultivators of the Alchemy Union. Their hands rose and their palms fell. The 2 supremacy realm cultivators of the Alchemy Union died on the spot. Buzz. Then, the 2 4th-grade human sovereign elixir puppets turned into shadows and entered the bodies of the supremacy realm cultivators of the Alchemy Union. Swish. Chapter 1130. Qi Gongming Possession. Dan Ming's possession. Mu Feng's pupils shrank as an expression of extreme fear appeared on his face. No wonder the young Dan Ming would ask them to gather all the yin-yang stage cultivators in the capital. It turned out that he wanted to use the yin-yang stage cultivators for possession. Since most of the Dan Ming's cultivation was in the sovereign realm, ordinary Yuan Dan realm cultivators wouldn't be able to withstand the impact of their possession. Most of the Yuan Dan realm cultivators had weaker physiques. If the one being possessed was a Yuan Dan realm cultivator, he would have died from his body exploding. What are you waiting for? Gather all the yin-yang stage cultivators in the capital, or I'll possess you as well. Seeing that Mu Feng was still in a daze, the young Dan Ming unleashed his aura. PFFFT. Under the pressure of the young Dan Ming's aura, even Dong He, who was in the sovereign realm, vomited a mouthful of blood. Since you don't know how to cherish it, then I'll send you to heaven. Slowly shaking his head, The young Dan Ming slammed his hands on the chair beneath him and charged forward. Swish! The young Dan Ming's speed was extremely fast as he arrived before Mu Feng in the blink of an eye. A fist brought along a violent gale as it flew towards Mu Feng's head. The might of the young Dan Ming's fist was extremely powerful. If Mu Feng was unlucky enough to be struck by it, he would definitely die. It's over. Looking at the approaching young Dan Ming, Mu Feng only had these two words in his mind. He was only in the manifestation realm, while the young Dan Ming was at least in the 4th grade sovereign realm. The difference in their cultivation was too great that he didn't even have the courage to resist. You want to send Dean Mu to heaven? However, before the young Dan Ming's fist landed on Mu Feng's body, a faint voice resounded from the void. Not good. Hearing the voice, the young Dan Ming's eyes narrowed as he immediately gave up on attacking Mu Feng and retreated. You want to leave? Not so easy. A cold snort resounded from the void once again. Space split apart as a figure flew out from the void and charged towards the young Dan Ming at an astonishing speed. Swish! Swish! As the young Dan Ming retreated, the two 4th grade sovereign Dan Ming that had successfully possessed Mu Feng made their moves. Each of them threw a punch that collided with the figure in the void. Catcher! Catcher! 2 crisp sounds rang out. Soon after, 2 miserable shrieks came out from the mouths of the 4th grade human sovereign realm pill puppets. At this moment, 2 4th grade human supreme Dan puppets were killed on the spot. Buzz! After Dan Kai died in battle, the void cracked again, and several figures appeared in the hall. Ningyu! Looking at the familiar figure standing in the middle of the hall, Mu Feng's mouth was agape, his face filled with confusion. Ningyu! The one who saved him just now was Ningyu. As for those martial artists behind Ningyu, other than the Dark Emperor, Mu Feng did not recognize a single one of them. Although Mu Feng didn't know Ningyu, he was very clear that now that Ningyu had appeared and killed 2 4th grade Supreme Realm Dan puppets, it meant that there was a high possibility that they could be saved. You're Ningyu. The young Dan Shen's eyes locked onto Ningyu and he said in a deep voice, there's a path to heaven, but you refuse to take it. There's no door to hell, but you barge in. Whoosh! As the young Dan Shen's voice fell, all the Dan puppets in the hall moved out and surrounded Ningyu and the others. You want to kill me with these nobodies? Ningyu pointed at the surrounding Dan puppets with his right hand and said indifferently, I don't even need to do anything to deal with these Dan puppets. Ha ha ha. The young Dan puppet laughed wildly and said coldly, aren't you afraid of cutting your tongue? Aren't you afraid that the wind will cut your tongue by boasting? I, Qi Gongming, shall see just what you are going to use to kill this pill puppet army. The ignorant are fearless. Ningyu shrugged and turned to the sword of evil and said, don't leave anyone alive, kill them all. Whoosh! The sword of evil did not reply to Ningyu. His figure gradually turned illusory and eventually disappeared. Are you sure you're not here to joke around? Qi Gongming opened his mouth and asked doubtfully, this martial artist's cultivation is at most. Phut, 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 phut. Qi Gongming's mouth fell open and his body froze on the spot. Because what happened next was completely out of his expectations. All the Dan puppets in the entire conference hall, be they 1st grade human supremes, 4th grade and 5th grade human supremes, were all killed in just 1 minute. Gulp! Qi Gongming swallowed a mouthful of saliva and was dumbfounded. What was the cultivation of this friend that Ningyu brought? How could he be so strong? Qi Gongming, the leader of the Eastern Expedition Army's vanguard to attack the Great Xia Kingdom, Grade 4 Supreme. The death of the surrounding Dan puppets did not affect Ningyu at all. He said indifferently, the leader of the Eastern Expedition Army decided to conquer the Great Xia Kingdom because he was afraid that all the martial artists in the Mystic Moon continent would unite to deal with the Dan puppets, so he decided to use a scheme to conquer the Great Xia Kingdom. It's a pity that your plan is going to fail. Is that so? At this moment, another indifferent voice came from the void. Hearing this voice, Ningyu's face turned extremely solemn. Just from the voice, Ningyu could tell that the owner's cultivation was no lower than Grade 8 Supreme. Crack! The space beside Qi Gongming suddenly broke, and an old man in grey clothes revealed his face. Peak early 8th grade human supreme. As Ningyu expected, the old man's cultivation was no lower than Grade 8 Supreme, but a peak early 8th grade human supreme. In fact, he was only a step away from advancing to the intermediate 8th grade human supreme. In a sense, the old man's battle prowess was no weaker than that of the Sword of Evil. It was even possible that he was stronger than the Sword of Evil. Uncle Wu. Qi Gongming's face lit up when he saw the old man in grey. He hurriedly said, "This is Ning Yu. Quick, capture him." "Nonsense." The old man in grey glared at Qi Gongming and said in a deep voice, "The Eastern Expedition Army thinks highly of you and let you be the vanguard, but you made things so awkward. Don't say anything without my permission." Qi Gongming opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but he held back his words in the end. He had indeed messed things up. The Eastern Expedition Army's plan was to split up and not gather all the Yin-Yang realm cultivators to Danwu College. Now that the first batch of Dan who had all died, even Uncle Wu couldn't protect him. "Ning Yu, I'll definitely turn you into ashes." Qi Gongming stared at Ning Yu and secretly made up his mind to kill Ning Yu no matter what. He would skin him alive and pull out his tendons. The reason why he was in such a miserable state was all because of Ning Yu. If Ning Yu hadn't sent people to kill so many Dan who, he wouldn't have been scolded by Uncle Wu. Chapter 1131. To catch a turtle in a jar. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Wu Hai, Qi Gongming's uncle. The grey-robed old man turned around and stared at Ning Yu. He said in a deep voice, "There are two paths in front of you. First, open your mind and let me control you. Second," at this point, Wu Hai's eyes became extremely cold, and he suddenly unleashed his aura. Kai Kai. Wu Hai's aura was extremely terrifying, so terrifying that even the Sword of Evil could not help but take a few steps back. 8th grade middle human supreme martial artist. At this moment, Ning Yu realized that Wu Hai's cultivation wasn't at the initial phase 8th grade sovereign realm, but a genuine middle phase 8th grade sovereign realm. Die. As Wu Hai uttered the word die, an even more terrifying aura soared into the sky. Shoo. The aura made a turn in mid-air, and then, with a shocking speed, charged towards Ning Yu. Not good. Feeling Wu Hai's terrifying aura rushing towards him, Ning Yu's expression changed greatly. He immediately stomped on the ground and retreated. However, the speed of Ning Yu's retreat was clearly slower by half a beat. Wu Hai's aura of a mid-8th grade human supreme instantly arrived beside him. Bang! The terrifying aura directly forced Ning Yu to the corner. His body slammed into the wall, producing a crisp sound. Damn it! Everything happened too quickly, and Ning Yu had no way to put up an effective resistance. Seeing Wu Hai's aura rush out once more, Ning Yu cursed inwardly. He hastily wrapped the essence in his knowledge sea around his wrist and punched out. Out of the way! At this critical moment, the Sword of Evil dashed forward. In the blink of an eye, he arrived before Ning Yu, helping Ning Yu block Wu Hai's aura. Poochie. Wu Hai's cultivation was at the 8th grade intermediate human supreme realm, while the Sword of Evil had only recovered to the 8th grade initial human supreme realm. With the Sword of Evil's current strength, it was impossible for him to withstand Wu Hai's aura. The Sword of Evil spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. His body swayed a little, and he was on the verge of collapsing. He can't even withstand a single blow. After succeeding in his attack, Wu Hai did not continue to attack. Instead, he smiled faintly and said, "I really don't know how the medium war saints and the others died. All of you, open your minds and let me control them. Otherwise, you will all die a horrible death. You're not qualified to kill us." Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, the Sword of Evil said in a deep voice, "Xielan, let's work together and kill this old fart." Ha ha ha. Wu Hai raised his head and laughed. Shortly after, he changed the topic and coldly said, "You're an initial phase 8th grade sovereign, and that Xielan is also an initial phase 8th grade sovereign. The two of you will also be courting death if you join hands. Whether it's courting death or not, we'll only know after a battle." Xielan's tone was emotionless as she continued, "If I've guessed correctly, you've just advanced to intermediate phase 8th grade sovereign, and your aura isn't too stable. If you forcefully make a move, you might cause a backlash." Backlash? What's that? Let me tell you the truth. 4 initial phase 8th grade sovereigns like you, I'll kill as many as you come. Wu Hai's brows twitched as he eerily said. We'll only know after a battle. Xie Lan's gaze turned cold as she took the lead and charged out to fight with Wu Hai. Crack. Seeing that Xie Lan had made a move, the Sword of Evil crushed a royal grade origin crystal and instantly flew out to join the battle. Rumble. The conference hall of Danwu College wasn't particularly big. Wu Hai and the rest were all 8th grade sovereigns. Thus, the commotion from their battle was massive. The conference hall was so small that it definitely couldn't withstand the shockwaves from their battle. Xie Lan and the Sword of Evil had intentionally shifted the battle to the sky. Someone's fighting. Who is it? I don't think they're from Danwu College. They're indeed not from Danwu College. However, their cultivation should be pretty high. That's right. 2 of them had perfect control over their strength every time they attacked, preventing the shockwaves from spreading. Let's hurry up and inform the dean to, bang. Right at this moment, a cultivator was thrown out of Danwu College's conference hall. Dean. It's the dean. The dean seems to be injured. This is Danwu College. Who dares to attack the dean? That's right. They must have eaten a bear's heart and leopard's gall to even dare to attack the dean. Hurry up and inform the elders. The cultivator who was thrown out of the conference hall was none other than Mu Feng. Bang, bang, bang. Following closely behind Mu Feng were the Black Widow, Black-White Double Ghosts, Old Ancestor Ju Mo, and the rest. In the end, even Yun Mu was thrown out. Gulp. The surrounding Danwu College students swallowed a mouthful of saliva when they sensed the supremacy realm aura emanating from Yun Mu's body. Yun Mu's cultivation was more than a level higher than Mu Feng's. Since even Yun Mu was thrown out, it wasn't surprising that Mu Feng was thrown out as well. Who can tell me what's going on? You're asking me? Who the F***ck should I ask? Based on the current situation, someone must have made a move on Danwu College. They're trying to wipe out Danwu College in one fell swoop. Even the dean has been injured. What's the point of us going forward? Inform the rest of Danwu College to evacuate as soon as possible. The last cultivator who spoke was a peak Yin-Yang realm elder from Danwu College. His name was Zhong Jiao. In Danwu College, apart from Mu Feng and Old Ancestor Ju Mo, Zhong Jiao's cultivation was the highest. Below the manifestation realm, his cultivation was the highest. Zhong Jiao's words still had some effect. After all, Zhong Jiao's status in Danwu College was very high. Right, let's evacuate quickly. It'll be too late if we don't leave now. Could it be that the Danwu Academy is going to face another catastrophe? If it weren't for Ning Yu, Danwu College would have been destroyed in the previous catastrophe. Will Ning Yu show up this time? What's the use of showing up? Even a supremacy realm cultivator was injured. Even if Ning Yu comes, he'll only be sending himself to his death. What nonsense are you talking about? Leave Danwu College as far as you can, Zhong Jiao berated. Leave. As soon as Zhong Jiao's berating voice rang out, a faint voice came from the surroundings. Buzz. Immediately, an illusory figure appeared in front of Zhong Jiao. Qi Gongming. This cultivator was Qi Gongming. Haha, your hope, Ning Yu, can't even protect himself now. How can he help you? Qi Gongming smiled and said, if Ning Yu can survive the encirclement of 2 intermediate grade 7 human supremacies, I'll twist my head off. As for you guys, don't even think about leaving. Swish. As Qi Gongming's voice fell, several figures suddenly appeared in the surroundings. Dan Lin. All of them were grade 1 human supremacy Dan Lin. Seal off Danwu College. Don't let anyone in without my permission. Qi Gongming's lips curled up as he said coldly, I'll be catching a turtle in a jar for the next period of time. TSK, just thinking about it makes me a little excited. Who should I start with? Qi Gongming furrowed his brows as if he was thinking about something. Chapter 1132. Who exactly are you? Why are you going against Danwu College? In order not to cause panic, Zhong Jiao pretended to be calm. Zhong Jiao was at the peak of Yin-Yang realm. He could clearly tell that he was no match for Qi Gongming. Zhong Jiao was at the peak of yin-yang realm. He could clearly tell that he was no match for Qi Gongming. The difference between the two was worlds apart. They were not on the same order of magnitude at all. If Qi Gongming wanted to kill him, all he needed to do was move his fingers. However, in order to buy time for the students of Danwu College to escape, Zhong Jiao stomped on the ground and charged straight at Qi Gongming. He, there's a way out for you, but you chose to barge into hell instead. Qi Gongming smiled, clenched his right fist, and pushed it out. Bang! Although Qi Gongming didn't use his full strength in this punch, it was still very easy to kill a martial artist at the peak of yin-yang realm like Zhong Jiao. Qi Gongming's fist landed on his chest, and Zhong Jiao's body flew backward like a kite with a broken string. A crisp sound was heard, and Zhong Jiao fell to the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Run! Zhong Jiao shouted with the last bit of his strength. Swoosh! The students of Danwu College weren't fools. They knew that Zhong Jiao was using his life to buy time for them. They had to leave as soon as possible. If they were late, Zhong Jiao's death would be meaningless. Want to leave? Qi Gongming raised his eyebrows, and his figure gradually turned illusory. Crack! In the next few minutes, Qi Gongming shuttled through the crowd. Wherever he went, the situation changed, and all the students of Danwu College were killed. Only a minute had passed since Qi Gongming made his move. However, in this 1 minute, dozens of students of Danwu College were killed. This number was under the premise that Qi Gongming didn't use his full strength. One could imagine that once Qi Gongming used his full strength, none of the students around him would survive. I'll give you a chance now. Scatter. All of you, scatter. After killing dozens of students, Qi Gongming stopped and said loudly, in the next half an hour, I'll play the role of the cat, and you'll be the mouse. Let's have a game of cat and mouse. Run. Yes, let's leave quickly. It'll be too late if we delay any longer. Devil. This man is a devil. We must leave immediately. We must leave Danwu College. Go, go, go. When the students of Danwu College heard Qi Gongming's words, they felt as if they had been pardoned from a crime and scattered in all directions. Zhong Jiao was at the pinnacle of the yin-yang realm, and even he couldn't kill him in one move. If they stayed, they would definitely die. Hide them well, I'm going to catch them one by one. After the students left, Qi Gongming smirked and said sinisterly, Who are you going to catch? Before Qi Gongming could finish his sentence, a faint voice rang in his ears. Who is it? Hearing this voice, Qi Gongming's heart trembled, and he hurriedly turned around to look. Qi Gongming's jaw dropped, and his face was filled with bewilderment. Ningyu. The martial artist who spoke was none other than Ningyu. Qi Gongming was very puzzled. Wasn't Ningyu fighting with 2 7th-grade middle human supremes? How could he still be free? Something's not right. Suddenly, Qi Gongming seemed to have thought of something, and a smear of astonishment appeared in his eyes. What did you do to those 2 7th-grade middle human supremes? Qi Gongming's eyes turned cold as he barked, Those two are Uncle Wu's protectors. What does that have to do with me? Ningyu's tone was cold as he swept his gaze across the surroundings. 32 corpses. Very good. You've killed 32 students of Danwu College. Including Zhong Jiao and the 2 Supremes in the conference hall, you've killed a total of 35 people. Ha ha ha. Qi Gongming laughed maniacally. So what if it's 35 people? To tell you the truth, you're going to die today. All of you, come out. Rumble. Qi Gongming seemed to have expected this. As his maniacal laughter rang out, the surrounding void suddenly exploded, and 5 figures appeared. Late 7th grade middle human supremes. The 5 figures that suddenly appeared were all late 7th grade middle human supremes, and 2 of them were even a step away from peak 7th grade middle human supremes. Ningyu, you can kill Dan Ming, a 7th grade middle human supremes, but I don't believe you can kill late 7th grade middle human supremes. Twisting his neck, Qi Gongming said coldly, this day next year will be the anniversary of your death. Dark Emperor, Talisman Supremacy, go and kill the other Dan Ming of Danwu College. Without answering Qi Gongming's words immediately, Ningyu turned around and said, if necessary, you can devour them. Understood. This was the moment the Dark Emperor was waiting for. As soon as Ningyu's voice landed, he rose from the ground and galloped back and forth in Danwu College. As for talisman supremacy, he didn't act immediately like the Dark Emperor. Instead, he came to Yunmu's side and treated his injuries for a while before taking action. Ningyu, you play with these people. I'm going to play cat and mouse. Qi Gongming pointed at the 5 figures beside him and stomped on the ground, wanting to retreat from this area. Hee. Ningyu smiled at Qi Gongming's retreat, then his body gradually turned illusory. Not good. Hurry up and stop Ningyu. Stop Ningyu at all cost. Qi Gongming was well aware of the difference between him and the enemy. If he were to fight with Ningyu head-on, only death would await him. After all, Ningyu could even kill Dan Ming, a 7th grade middle human supremacy. He definitely couldn't beat him. Qi Gongming was only a 4th grade middle human supremacy, a second-rate genius. In other words, with Qi Gongming's peak strength, he could only fight against a 6th grade middle human supremacy. Against a 7th grade middle human supremacy, he wouldn't even have the chance to escape. Stop me. Hee. An illusory voice rang in Qi Gongming's ears. Hearing this voice, Qi Gongming acted as if he was facing a great enemy. He hurriedly extended his perception, wanting to find out where Ningyu was. However, no matter how hard Qi Gongming tried, he couldn't find Ningyu's exact location. Ningyu kept jumping back and forth, and his location was not fixed. Other than Qi Gongming, even the 5 late-stage 7th grade middle human supremacies couldn't find Ningyu's location. Don't worry. I won't let you die so easily. Suddenly, Ningyu appeared beside Qi Gongming. He clenched his right fist and punched out. Ningyu's punch wasn't very powerful, only about 50% of his strength. Bang! Qi Gongming retreated rapidly after being hit in the chest. Bang bang bang! Ningyu said that he wouldn't let Qi Gongming die so quickly, so he would keep his promise. Chasing after Qi Gongming, Ningyu punched out several times. Every punch landed on Qi Gongming's chest, shattering all of Qi Gongming's internal organs. Fut fut fut. Qi Gongming kept spitting out fresh blood. Qi Gongming's aura dropped from the 4th grade middle human supremacy to the 1st grade middle human supremacy. Chapter 1133. Die. You're courting death. It was only after Ningyu threw out 35 punches that the 5 late-stage 7th grade human supremes found Ningyu's exact location. Rumble. Since they had found Ningyu's exact location, they would definitely use all sorts of spells to attack Ningyu. Qi Gongming was now lying on the ground like a dead dog, his fate unknown. How could the 5 late-stage 7th grade human supremes let Ningyu go? The mission Wu Hai gave them was to ensure Qi Gongming's safety. Now, Qi Gongming's life was in danger. If Ningyu continued to attack, Qi Gongming would definitely die. Late-stage 7th grade human supremes. Looking at the 5 late-stage 7th grade human supremes closing in on him, Ningyu took a deep breath and his expression turned grave. Although he could kill mid-stage 7th grade human supremes, Ningyu still felt a great deal of pressure when facing a late-stage 7th grade human supremes. One-on-one might not be a problem, but 1 against 5, Ningyu did not have absolute confidence. Putting aside whether he was a match for them or not, Ningyu drew out the red demon sword and instantly sent out 5 sword rays. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The speed of the 5 sword lights was extremely fast. The sword rays tore through the void and arrived in front of the 5 late-stage 7th grade human supremes in the blink of an eye, slashing at their necks. Ningyu knew that his first attack would definitely not be able to kill these pellets, so he only used 10% of his strength. Law of space. Concealment. After one move, Ningyu's figure became illusory again. Relying on the law of space, he completely concealed himself in the void. What's going on? Just as Ningyu concealed himself in the void, the 5 late-stage 7th grade human supremes stopped in mid-air and used all their senses. If they wanted to kill Ningyu, they had to confirm Ningyu's location. Otherwise, if they couldn't even find Ningyu, how were they supposed to kill him? However, no matter how hard the 5 pill puppets tried, they had no way of locating Ningyu's specific location. Whoosh! Not only did he not discover Ningyu's location, But his own safety was also threatened. Ningyu suddenly appeared behind a Danmu and stabbed his sword towards the Danmu's heart. Whoosh! If Dan Ming hadn't reacted in time, Ningyu's sword might have sent him to the next world. Ah! Seeing Ningyu appear, the other 4 pill puppets simultaneously threw out a punch. Their target was Ningyu. However, the other 4 Dans were clearly brainless. Ningyu tore through the void and disappeared. Their attacks all landed on the chest of another Danmu. Struck by the powerful attacks of his 4 companions, the Danmu's aura instantly dropped from late-stage 7th grade human supremes to early-stage 7th grade human supremes. He even let out a hysterical roar. Haha, killing your own sect members. Very good. I'd love to see that. With a faint smile, Ningyu appeared beside Qi Gongming again. He raised his right leg and stomped heavily on Qi Gongming's chest. Crack! The sound of ribs breaking rang out. Qi Gongming let out a miserable shriek like a pig being slaughtered. Die! The remaining 4 late-stage 7th grade human supremes were smarter. They held back their attacks and attacked Ningyu repeatedly. I'm sorry, but you might lose a companion. The second time Ningyu spoke, it was beside the most unlucky Danmu. Puff! Holding the red demon sword in his hand, Ningyu raised it and plunged it straight into the heart of the unlucky Danmu. After his heart was pierced, the unlucky Danmu struggled for a while. Then, his eyes rolled back and he died on the spot. Die! Seeing that their companions had been killed, the 4 Dan Na survivors let out hysterical roars. Due to their stupidity, their companion was killed. However, they blamed the death of their companion on Ningyu and Ningyu's cunning. I've killed one. Next, I'll use another method. Ningyu was not a hothead. It was fine to use the same method once. If he used it a second or third time, he might be discovered. Once discovered, the consequences would be dire. After all, facing off against late-stage 7th grade human supremes head-on, and 4 of them at that, Ningyu felt immense pressure. Puff! Puff! Fortunately, Ningyu had many tricks up his sleeves. Using all kinds of methods, after half an hour of busy work, another 2 late-stage 7th grade human supremes were killed. Now, only 2 of the 5 late-stage 7th grade human supremes were left. Qi Gongming, who was far away, was also at his last gasp. He was only hanging on to his last breath. He was not far from death. Kid, do you only know how to dodge? Come out and fight if you can. The remaining 2 late-stage 7th grade human supremes were called Hang Bo and Hua Lei. The strength of the 2 of them was the strongest amongst the 5 late-phase 7th grade human sovereigns. It was completely reasonable that they were the last to survive. At this moment, Hang Bo and Hua Lei stood on either side of Qi Gongming and berated at the same time. As you wish. Buzz buzz. An indifferent voice sounded. Ningyu slowly appeared in front of them. Brat, in the face of absolute power, all conspiracies and schemes will be exposed. Hang Bo said coldly, I advise you to surrender quickly, or I'll let you know why flowers are red. There's still a chance of survival if you surrender. Resistance will only make you die faster. Hua Lei berated. Are you talking to me? Ningyu stretched out his hand and pointed at his nose. He said hesitantly, what absolute power do you have? If you had power, your 3 companions wouldn't have been killed by me. Qi Gongming wouldn't have ended up like this either. Oh, right. Ningyu seemed to have thought of something and continued, I wanted to kill Qi Gongming from the start. It's because of the 2 of you that Qi Gongming suffered so much. Nonsense. Qi Gongming was only injured. You want to kill him? It's harder than ascending the heavens. What? Hang Bo snorted coldly and shouted. But before Hang Bo could finish his sentence, his mouth opened wide and his face was filled with disbelief. That was because they realized that Qi Gongming's eyes were wide open and his hands were clawing in front of him. This state was no different from having epilepsy. He was just short of foaming at the mouth. If he did that, Qi Gongming would be a living lunatic with epilepsy. Stop struggling. I've only punched you a few dozen times. That's already a lot less punishment. Seeing Qi Gongming's indignant look, Ningyu said calmly. Fart. Ningyu's words acted as a fuse. Qi Gongming's eyes were filled with viciousness. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his body fell backward. Bang! His heavy body fell to the ground, causing a cloud of dust to rise. At this moment, the leader of the Eastern Expedition Army, Qi Gongming, was dead. Hang Bo and Hua Lei screamed when they saw Qi Gongming die. Chapter 1134. A moment of crisis. I'm finished. Ning Yu couldn't help but laugh out loud. It had to be said that Hang Bo and Hua Lei were quite ambitious to be able to say such words at this point. 1 against 5, Ning Yu might not be able to do it. However, Ning Yu still had a chance in a 1 versus 2 battle. Ning Yu used his perception to probe the battle in the depths of the void. He muttered, "The Sword of Evil and Xielan are at a disadvantage. They can hold on for another half an hour at most. In other words, I have to kill Hang Bo and Hua Lei within half an hour." Thinking of this, Ning Yu said coldly, "If I can kill your companions, then I can kill all of you. If you know what's good for you, destroy your own cultivation as soon as possible. Otherwise, you'll end up like Qi Gongming." Hang Bo and Qi Gongming did not answer Ning Yu directly. They snorted at the same time and took out a round plate from their pockets. The disc was about the size of a palm, and there was a silver needle as long as a finger on it. Probe disc. Seeing the disc in Hang Bo's hand, Ning Yu's pupils shrank and he quickly retreated. The so-called detection disc, as the name suggested, could detect the specific location of a martial artist. Under the probing disc, even if Ning Yu had the law of space, he still felt a little apprehensive. After all, Ning Yu's spatial law was only in its nascent state, and its power was not very great. If he was at the peak of his space laws, Ning Yu naturally wouldn't be afraid of some probing disc. But now, he had to think of a way to snatch it away. Otherwise, it was extremely likely that his position would be detected. "You have good eyesight. It's a probe disc," Hang Bo said coldly. "Let's see where you can run with the probe disc." "Hide." Ning Yu's eyes turned cold, and his body quickly merged into the void. Whoosh! Hang Bo glared fiercely at Ning Yu, then forced out a drop of blood essence and dripped it on the probe disc. Swish, swish, swish. As soon as the essence blood dripped onto the disc, the silver needle on the disc swayed back and forth, sometimes pointing to the left, and sometimes pointing to the right. The direction where the silver needle was pointing was exactly where Ning Yu was. "Hua Lei, attack quickly." With the disc, Hang Bo was confident that he could detect Ning Yu's location. Hang Bo and Hua Lei had a clear division of labor. Hang Bo scouted Ning Yu's location while Hua Lei attacked. He was responsible for killing Ning Yu. "Where are you going?" Hua Lei was very straightforward. He gathered the essence qi in his sea of consciousness on his wrist and punched out with a backhand. This punch was so powerful that it contained terrifying yuan qi fluctuations. Even the air made a hissing sound. An all-out attack from a late-stage 7th-grade supreme martial artist. In the void, Ning Yu was still jumping around to ensure that his location was not completely detected. Feeling the terrifying yuan qi fluctuations from Hua Lei's fist, Ning Yu gritted his teeth and gathered all the yuan qi in his sea of consciousness on his wrist. He even wrapped his soul power around his wrist and punched out with a backhand. Bang! The two fists collided. Ning Yu's fist and Hua Lei's fist collided. Crack! A crisp sound rang out. Swish swish. Both Ning Yu and Hua Lei retreated several meters back. "Not bad. You can block my all-out attack with the cultivation of a 2nd-grade supreme martial artist. Looks like you are one of the 5 absolute geniuses." Rubbing his slightly swollen fist, Hua Lei said indifferently, "In front of me, even the 5 unmatched geniuses are useless. As long as I can detect your exact location, you are a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Death is only a matter of time." Ning Yu's face darkened as he secretly thought of a countermeasure. The current situation was extremely dangerous for him. If he couldn't think of an effective solution, he could only wait for death. Rumble. At this moment, the situation on the battlefield changed drastically. In a moment of carelessness, Venerable Sword Devil and Xielan were struck by Wu Hai's attack, causing them to fall to the ground. Bang! Bang! The two figures landed heavily on the ground, producing two crisp sounds. Fart. Blood sprayed out as the Sword of Evil and Xielan's aura rapidly decreased. Damn it. Looking at the Sword of Evil and Xielan's miserable state, Ningyu's heart sank to the bottom. When it rains, it pours. The Sword of Evil was heavily injured and Xielan's aura was weak. Moreover, his location was locked on by the probe disc. What should I do under these circumstances? Ningyu rolled his eyes and quickly thought of a countermeasure. What the hell are you guys doing? Landing in Danwu College, Wu Hai's face turned ugly when he saw Qi Gongming's miserable state. If word got out that Qi Gongming had been killed, where would he hide his face? He was one of the top figures in the Eastern Expedition Army. After all, he was a mid-stage 8th grade supreme. There were only a few people in the army who had a higher cultivation than him. Now that he couldn't even protect his own family, his prestige in the Eastern Expedition Army would definitely plummet in the future. All of you must die today. Wu Hai's expression turned very ugly. His eyes swept across Ningyu and the rest as he said coldly, "Originally, I didn't plan to start a massacre in the Great Xia Kingdom. Now, I have changed my strategy. I will start killing from the Dan Wu Academy. Everyone, regardless of their cultivation, old, weak, women, and children, must die. Ningyu, do you have any more Shenyang pills?" At this moment, Xielan's soul power surged. No, more accurately, it was the Palace Master. Xielan was severely injured and her body was temporarily controlled by the Palace Master. The Palace Master sent a soul message to Ningyu. "If you have 2 Shenyang pills, I can use Xielan's body to fight against this Wu Hai. With 3, I can even kill him." Ningyu's face darkened. There probably wasn't even a single complete Shenyang pill on the sapling. Where was he going to get 3? Furthermore, the sapling was no different from a dead dog. No matter how hard Ningyu called out to it, it didn't respond. No response from the sapling meant that it couldn't produce Shenyang pills quickly. Without Shenyang pills, there was no way to deal with Wu Hai. It was truly hopeless. Is there any other way? Taking a deep breath, Ningyu whispered, "For example, using royal-grade essence crystals to replace Shenyang pills?" If it was royal-grade essence crystals, Ningyu did have some on him. If he could replace Shenyang pills with royal-grade essence crystals, Ningyu wouldn't hesitate to give all the royal-grade essence crystals he had to the Centaurea Palatial Lord. "There's no other way. I can only use Shenyang pills to unleash my full strength and fight against Wu Hai," the Palace Master said in a deep voice. "Hang Bo, Hua Lei." Just then, Wu Hai said coldly, "Because of your stupidity, Qi Gongming was killed. I'll give you guys a chance to atone for your sins. Bring everyone from Danwu College here." "Yes." Hang Bo and Hua Lei nodded hurriedly. Actually, when Wu Hai appeared, the two of them were extremely anxious and even a little afraid that he would kill them. After all, Qi Gongming was killed because of their stupidity. Chapter 1135. Trapped HM8. If you want to capture Danwu College's students, you'll have to get past me first. Ningyu took a step forward and said coldly. Hang Bo and Hua Lei were both late-stage 7th grade supreme martial artists. If they attacked, Danwu College would be finished. Moreover, the Dark Emperor and the Talisman Supremacy were still killing other elixir puppets. If Hang Bo and Hua Lei attacked, not only would Danwu College be finished, but the Dark Emperor's life would also be in danger. Therefore, Ningyu had no other choice but to stop Hang Bo and Hua Lei. "Since you want to die, we'll fulfill your wish." After exchanging glances, Hang Bo and Hua Lei stomped on the ground and dashed out. There was only one chance. If they missed this opportunity, there would be no more. In order to kill Ningyu as soon as possible, Hang Bo and Hua Lei used all their strength and reached Ningyu in the blink of an eye. Remember, in your next life, there are some people you can't afford to offend. Hang Bo's eyes revealed a ferocious look as he punched at Ningyu's chest with his right fist. This punch was so powerful that if Ningyu was unlucky enough to be hit, he would be crippled even if he didn't die. Dodge. Ningyu stomped on the ground and retreated quickly. "Where are you going?" However, just as Ningyu took a few steps back, Hua Lei tore through the void and blocked in front of him, using all his strength to attack his head. There was a wolf in front and a tiger behind. This was extremely dangerous. Universe Palm. Since there was no way to avoid it, Ningyu channeled the qi in his consciousness into his wrist and fanned out 2 palm prints. Although Ningyu used the Universe Palm, which was very powerful, Hangbo and Hua Lei were late-stage 7th grade supreme martial artists. However, Hangbo and Hua Lei were both late-phase 7th grade sovereigns. Unless Ningyu cultivated the Universe Palm to the ultimate realm, it would be hard for him to resist the 2 of them. Crack, crack. As expected, the 2 palm prints Ningyu had unleashed were dispersed by Hangbo and Hua Lei at the same time. After dispersing the palm imprints, Hangbo approached Ningyu from the front and Hua Lei from the back. Ningyu will be killed soon. Now it's your turn. Seeing that Ningyu was at an absolute disadvantage, Wu Hai turned to the Sword of Evil and Xielan and said, 2 initial 8th grade sovereigns are great nourishment. If you want to kill us, you'll have to have the ability to do so first. The Sword of Evil forcefully stood up and said in a deep voice. Ha ha ha. Laughing maniacally at the sky, Wu Hai's tone changed as he icily said, trash like you can be killed with a flip of my hand. Sword of Evil, channel your vital energy into my body. Xielan quietly came to Venerable Sword Evil's side and whispered. Swish. The Sword of Evil's eyes widened when he heard Xielan's words. He instantly understood what was going on. It was the Palatial Lord. Without the Shenyang pills, the Palatial Lord wanted to use his vital energy to deal with Wu Hai. Although this method was risky and could result in both of them dying if they weren't careful, it was the best method right now. Gritting his teeth, the Sword of Evil slapped his right hand on Xielan's back. Endless vital energy gushed out from his consciousness and entered Xielan's body through his palm. Rumble. As the vital energy in her body increased, Xielan's aura rose rapidly. In just a few seconds, Xielan had recovered from her heavily injured state to her peak state. Peak initial 8th grade sovereign. Xielan's aura had recovered to peak initial 8th grade sovereign and was only a step away from intermediate 8th grade sovereign. Damn it, I don't have enough vital energy. The Sword of Evil cursed in his heart when he felt the change in her aura. The Sword of Evil knew that Xielan's body was under the Palatial Lord's control. The Palatial Lord was very powerful. As long as she had enough vital energy, she could even raise her aura to intermediate 8th grade sovereign. Plop. All the vital energy was transferred to Xielan. The Sword of Evil's eyes rolled back and he fainted on the spot. Right now, the Sword of Evil didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. Even a true martial realm martial artist could easily kill him. Who? Feeling the powerful vital energy in her body, Xielan took a deep breath. No, it should be the Palatial Lord. Her eyes flashed with a fierce light. The world has changed. I never thought that Dan Kai would dare to openly attack the human world. I'm from the Black Moon continent. Today, let me enforce justice on behalf of the heavens. Haha, with just you? The corner of Wu Hai's lips rose as he coldly said, unless you advance to the 8th grade middle phase sovereign realm, killing you is as easy as taking something out of my pocket. As soon as the word single fell, Wu Hai's figure suddenly became illusory. The moment Wu Hai disappeared, the Palatial Lord narrowed her eyes and the vital energy in her body surged. Die. It wasn't long before a figure suddenly tore through the space above Palace Master Centaurea, and his fingers formed a claw as he grabbed forcefully towards Palace Master Centaurea's head. White Bone Claw. This move of Wu Hai's was called White Bone Claw, and it was extremely powerful. In the past, when Wu Hai was in the initial 8th grade human supreme realm, he had used the White Bone Claw to sneak attack and kill an intermediate 8th grade human supreme realm. Now that Wu Hai had reached the middle phase 8th grade sovereign realm, the might of the White Bone Claw had increased by several folds. In Wu Hai's view, the lady before him would definitely be killed. After all, he'd already sealed off the surrounding space, causing the woman before him to be unable to flee, and she could only go head-on against him. White Bone Claw. Palatial Lord Centaurea's eyes changed, turning scarlet red. Swish. Swish. Glaring at Wu Hai, 2 cold rays of light shot out from his eyes and charged toward Wu Hai. Swish. Wherever the cold beams passed, the air would dodge. Child's play. The corner of Wu Hai's lips rose as he waved his hand and clashed with the first cold beam. Catcher. A crisp sound rang out as the first cold beam quickly disappeared. Catcher. After the first ray of cold light dissipated, the second ray of cold light was also blown away. Any resistance is futile before the white bone claw. Wu Hai spoke calmly. Then, his sharp palm pierced towards the heart of the 100 Flowers Palace Master. A one-hit kill. After all, the lady before him was weird, and Wu Hai didn't want any unforeseen events to happen. Thus, he decided to kill the palatial lord in a single move. Only a dead person wouldn't scheme. Haha, it won't be that easy to kill me. The palace master of the 100 Flowers Palace smiled, and a disdainful expression appeared on her face. 100 flowers bloom. With a wave of her hands, countless flower petals fell from the sky, trapping Wu Hai within the 100 flower formation. Fart. After the 100 flowers array appeared, the palatial lord vomited a mouthful of blood and her face turned pale. To set up the 100 flowers array, the palatial lord had unleashed all the energy in her body. This caused the palatial lord to be extremely weak, even weaker than the sword of evil. What the hell is this? Wu Hai berated from within the 100 flowers array. Reality had proven that the 100 flowers array was effective. At the very least, Wu Hai wouldn't be able to break the 100 flowers array in a short period of time. Hang Bo, Hua Lei, you two trash, come over and help me break the array. Chapter 1136. Devouring not good, supremacy. Wu is trapped. Hang Bo and the rest had the upper hand against Ning Yu and were half a step away from killing Ning Yu. However, Wu Hai was their superior. They had no choice but to give up on attacking Ning Yu and save Wu Hai. If they didn't save Wu Hai and Wu Hai broke the 100 flower formation by himself, wouldn't they be in trouble? Therefore, even though they were about to kill Ning Yu, they didn't dare to continue attacking and could only help Wu Hai. Ning Yu, just you wait. I'll deal with you later. Hang Bo and Hua Lei moved quickly and arrived beside the 100 flower formation in the blink of an eye, helping to break it from the outside. Whoosh. After Hang Bo and the rest left, the pressure on Ning Yu instantly disappeared. He couldn't help but pant heavily. Too powerful. As long as Hang Bo and Wu Hai had the probe disc, Ning Yu wouldn't be able to fight against them. I have to think of a way to snatch the probe disc. Ning Yu's eyes darted around as he tried to think of a solution. Now that the Sword of Evil and Palatial Lord Centaurea had lost their fighting strength, as long as Hang Bo and the rest broke the 100 flower formation and released Wu Hai, the consequences would be dire. Palatial Lord, how long can the 100 flower formation last? With a thought, Ning Yu hurried to Palatial Lord Centaurea's side and asked softly. It won't last long. 3 hours at most. Palatial Lord Centaurea's voice was very weak, as though she could die at any moment. Crack. Ning Yu knew what to do. He hurriedly took out a royal-grade essence crystal and circulated spirit transformation art to devour it. In almost an instant, the royal-grade essence crystal was completely devoured. Pa. Ning Yu placed his right hand on Palatial Lord Centaurea's back and threads of Yuan Qi flowed through his palm into Palatial Lord Centaurea's body. As the Yuan Qi in her body gradually increased, Palatial Lord Centaurea's face turned from pale to red. Is there any way to destroy the 100 flower formation and kill Wu Hai? Ning Yu withdrew his palm and said in a deep voice. After pondering for a moment, the palace mistress of the 100 Flowers Palace said, there is a way, but we need to kill Hang Bo and Hua Lei first. It's impossible to succeed with the two of them around. I know. Ning Yu's expression became very solemn. Killing Hang Bo and Hua Lei was an arduous task. At the very least, it was impossible to succeed in a short period of time. Besides, if Hang Bo and Hua Lei were smart enough to kill him first and then help Wu Hai break the 100 flowers array, the situation would become very bad. Hua Lei, I'll help Venerable Wu break the 100 flowers formation. You go kill Ning Yu. As the saying goes, the more you think about it, the worse it will become. Hang Bo said in a deep voice, I'll give you 10 minutes. You must kill Ning Yu. Understood. Hua Lei also knew that keeping Ningyu alive would always be a scourge. I'll take your life while you're down. Therefore, Hua Lei's figure flashed and instantly appeared in front of Ningyu. He clenched his right fist and punched at Ningyu's head. Hua Lei's punch was very simple. He wanted to kill Ningyu with brute force. Move. At the critical moment, Ningyu pushed the palace mistress away and pushed his right hand out. Bang! The two fists collided. Ningyu was pushed back dozens of feet, while Hua Lei only took a few steps back. In comparison, Hua Lei had the upper hand. In terms of strength, Ningyu was not Hua Lei's match. Moreover, Hua Lei had the probe disc. Ningyu could not use the spatial law to hide in the void. Spatial law, can you stop Hua Lei? Ningyu knew the severity of the problem. He hurriedly communicated with the spatial law. Buzz. The result was always disappointing. The spatial law shook a few times, telling Ningyu that he could not stop it. What's the use of having you? Ningyu was so angry that he gritted his teeth. When fighting for energy, the spatial law was always ahead. Now that it was facing an enemy, the spatial law was afraid and did not dare to make a move. Ningyu, this day next year will be the anniversary of your death. Hua Lei snorted and tore through the void. He appeared in front of Ningyu in the blink of an eye. Dark Emperor. Looking at Hua Lei, who was just inches away from him, Ningyu did not resist. Instead, he stared at Hua Lei's back and shouted, "You want to distract me? Not so easy," Hua Lei said coldly. In order to kill Ningyu, Hua Lei focused all his attention on Ningyu. He even used the probe disc to deal with Ningyu. He did not have the energy to pay attention to the situation around him. Hua Lei, dodge. However, before Hua Lei's fist landed on Ningyu, Hangbo shouted from afar. What? Hua Lei immediately turned around when he heard Hangbo's shout. This glance caused Hua Lei's pupils to shrink and his body to tremble uncontrollably, because a bloody mouth had already arrived in front of him. Violet golden sky devouring hound. These words instantly appeared in Hua Lei's mind. Only a violet golden sky devouring hound could display such power. Dark Emperor, don't. Hua Lei wasn't the only one who was shocked by the sudden change. Even Ningyu yelled. The Dark Emperor's goal was clear: to devour Hua Lei. Devour. Hua Lei was a late-stage 7th grade human supreme. Even if the Dark Emperor devoured him, there was a high chance that he would explode. After all, the Dark Emperor was only a 2nd grade human supreme, far weaker than Hua Lei. Devour Hua Lei? That was a joke. I'm fine. The Dark Emperor smiled at Ningyu before devouring Hua Lei in front of everyone. Gulp. After swallowing Hua Lei, the Dark Emperor even burped, revealing a satisfied expression. Ah. However, the satisfied expression didn't last long before it was replaced by a pained expression. The Dark Emperor's body shrank rapidly as he rolled on the ground. Pain. Labor pain. The pain from his stomach caused the Dark Emperor to jump up and down as his expression turned hideous. Trash. All of you are trash. All of you are trash. Wu Hai, who was trapped in the 100-flower formation, was enraged when he saw Hua Lei being devoured by the Dark Emperor. He said coldly, Hangbo, that violet golden sky devouring hound's aura is weak. Go kill it quickly and try to break the 100-flower formation with the secret skill of the Dan puppet. Yes. Hangbo knew the severity of the situation. He immediately gave up on breaking the 100-flower formation and dashed out. His target was the Dark Emperor. Talisman supremacy, find a way to stabilize the Dark Emperor. Leave the late-stage 7th grade human supreme Dan puppet to me. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu took a step forward and blocked Hangbo's path. He said coldly, now that Hua Lei is dead and you've lost the detection disc, how are you going to fight me? Your current strength is less than half of your peak. It's as easy as pie for me to kill you, Hangbo said coldly. If you know what's good for you, move away. My target is that damned dog, not you. If you want to kill the Dark Emperor, you have to get past me first. At the critical moment, Ningyu calmed down. Taking out a few royal grade origin crystals, Ningyu threw them into his mouth and chewed. Crack crack crack. Chapter 1137. Refine without the detection disc. Do you think you're still a match for me? After recovering to his peak state, the corners of Ningyu's mouth curled up slightly. He said sinisterly, "This day next year will be the anniversary of your death." Ha ha ha. Hang Bo raised his head and laughed maniacally. Soon after, he coldly said, "Who doesn't know how to boast? Since you insist on courting death, I'll fulfill your wish." With that, Hang Bo dashed out. In order to kill Ningyu as soon as possible, Hang Bo didn't even hesitate to burn his blood essence to increase his speed. Hang Bo had forcefully shortened the distance that would have taken a second to 0.01 seconds. In other words, in an instant, Hang Bo arrived beside Ningyu, raised his right leg, and kicked fiercely at Ningyu's head. Hang Bo's cultivation was at the late 7th grade sovereign realm, 5 levels higher than Ningyu. In terms of raw strength, Ningyu was not Hang Bo's match. If he fought him head-on, he would not have a good ending. Law of space. With a thought, Ningyu used space law to drill into the void. Damn it. Seeing Ningyu disappear, Hang Bo could not help but curse, "If you have the guts, come out and fight me head-on." In fact, Ningyu was right. Without the detection disc, Hang Bo would not be able to find his position. "Fight you head-on? Unless I'm a fool." Ningyu's voice rang in Hang Bo's ears. "Humph. Don't think that I can't do anything if you don't come out." Snorting coldly, Hang Bo said coldly, "I can kill that damned dog first, then kill all the others. Let's see if you will come out or not." Whoosh. Hang Bo was a man of his word. He said he would kill the Dark Emperor first, so he would kill the Dark Emperor first. Tearing through the void, he appeared beside the Dark Emperor and punched out at the Dark Emperor's head. To deal with the purple-gold sky-devouring hound, one needed to explode its head so that it couldn't recover. Bang! However, Hang Bo's fatal punch was firmly blocked by the talisman martial supremacy beside the Dark Emperor. Peak 5th grade human supreme martial artist, I'll send you to hell. Hang Bo gritted his teeth in anger. His pinnacle punch was actually blocked by a pinnacle 5th grade sovereign. If this matter were to spread out, how would he maintain his footing in the pill furnace? Twisting his neck, Hang Bo threw another punch. This punch was also very powerful. The target changed from the Dark Emperor to the talisman martial supremacy. Not good. Supremacy talisman marshal's mouth was agape as a look of despair appeared on his face. In order to block Hang Bo's attack for the Dark Emperor, she used all her strength. He could only block one of Hang Bo's attacks with all his might. A second attack. Talisman supremacy had no way of blocking it. Kill. At the critical moment, Ningyu appeared beside the talisman martial supremacy. He pushed the talisman martial supremacy away and quickly thrust the red demon sword in his hand. Whoosh. Fortunately, Hang Bo dodged in time. Otherwise, Ningyu's sword would have taken his life. I need to find a way to detect Ningyu's exact location. Hang Bo knew that with Ningyu causing trouble, he had no way of killing the Dark Emperor and the talisman martial supremacy. It's all Hua Lei's fault. If he's dead, he's dead. He didn't even leave behind the detection disc. Hang Bo was very dissatisfied with Hua Lei. He gave the detection disc to Hua Lei to deal with Ningyu. Who would have thought that something would happen, causing the detection disc to be swallowed by the Dark Emperor? Now, without the detection disc, he couldn't even find Ningyu's exact location. How was he going to deal with the enemy? Hang Bo, I'll tell you Ningyu's exact location. Just as Hang Bo was secretly thinking of a countermeasure, Wu Hai's voice sounded in his mind. Hua. Hang Bo revealed an ecstatic expression when he heard that. As long as he could detect Ningyu's exact location, he would have a way to kill Ningyu, burn his bones and scatter his ashes. Front left, 3 meters. Wu Hai did things without any hesitation. When he said to tell Hang Bo, he immediately told him. Die, Ningyu. With Wu Hai's help, Hang Bo steadily gained the upper hand in the battle against Ningyu. At this rate, it was only a matter of time before Ningyu was killed. Palace Master Centauria, since you can set up the 100-flower formation, you must have a way to isolate the formation from the outside world. The Sword of Evil was very clear about this. Given the current situation, They had to isolate the 100-flower formation from the outside world and cut off the communication between Wu Hai and Hang Bo. Only then would Ning Yu have a chance to kill Hang Bo, otherwise, they could only wait for death. There is a way, but I'm at the end of my rope now. I don't have much vitality left in my body. The palace master said solemnly, it's actually very simple to isolate the 100-flower formation from the outside world. That is to use energy or vitality to trap the 100-flower formation. That's simple. At this moment, Mu Feng, who was far away, opened his mouth and said. When the battle broke out, Mu Feng had been paying attention to the surroundings. Now that they were at a critical juncture of life and death, he felt that he had to do something. Otherwise, everyone would die. When he heard that only energy and essence qi were needed to cut off the connection between Wu Hai and Hang Bo, Mu Feng said in a clear voice, after so many years, the Danwu Academy has accumulated quite a lot of energy and pure essence qi. There's even a Shengyang pill. What the F***ck? Even as the palace master couldn't help but curse when she heard Mu Feng's words. Shengyang pill. We're in this state for Danwu College, yet you actually didn't take it out earlier. If she had taken it out earlier, the palace master wouldn't have suffered such heavy injuries. That Shengyang pill is the treasure of Danwu College. Danwu College has an ancestral rule that it can't be taken out unless it's a matter of life and death. Mu Feng knew what the palace master was thinking, so he hurriedly explained. Nonsense. Hurry up and get the Shengyang pill. The palace master said coldly. Come back. Before Mu Feng could take more than a few steps, the palace master berated, other than the Shengyang pill, bring out all the other elixirs that can strengthen vitality. 1 minute. Gritting his teeth, Mu Feng hurriedly tore through the void and disappeared. Buzz. Mu Feng was a man of his word. A minute later, he returned to the palace master with a storage bag. It's indeed the Shengyang pill. After receiving the storage bag, Palatial Lord Centaurea sent a bit of her perception into the storage bag, and her complexion improved slightly. Other than the Shengyang pill, there are also many grade 6, 7, and even grade 8 elixirs. Nodding, the palace master threw the Shengyang pill into her mouth without any hesitation. After a moment's thought, the palatial mistress swallowed the rest of the pills. Bam! With so many elixirs in her stomach, the palace master's body let out a dull thud. The thud got stronger and stronger. In the end, the pain caused beads of sweat to appear on the palace master's forehead. Where there's effort, there'll be rewards. Soon, the palace master returned to normal. As for the palace master's aura, it returned to the early stage of grade 8 human supreme. Freak. Sensing that the palace master's aura had quickly returned to grade 8 human supreme, Mu Feng's mouth was agape with disbelief. As for the sword of evil and the talisman supremacy, they didn't have much of a reaction. Chapter 1138. Seal. Evacuate the surrounding martial artists. I'll think of a way to isolate the 100-flower formation from the outside world. After recovering, Palace Master Centaurea said in a deep voice. Yes. Mu Feng didn't dare to delay as he hurriedly brought the heavily injured martial artists away. In an instant, there were only a few figures left in the entire region. Palace Master Centaurea, Sword of Evil, Talisman Supremacy, Dark Emperor, Ning Yu, Hang Bo, and Wu Hai, who was trapped in the 100-flower formation. Palace Master Centaurea, you're about to recover to your peak condition. Do you have a way to kill Wu Hai? Initially, Sword of Evil's idea was to isolate the 100-flower formation from the outside world. However, with the recovery of Palace Master Centaurea's strength, Sword of Evil changed his mind. Sword of Evil felt that this was the best opportunity to kill Wu Hai and he mustn't miss it. The 100-flower formation has two functions. The first is to trap others and the second is to activate the restrictions within to kill martial artists. Palace Master Centaurea explained, it's easy to trap others but it's impossible to activate the restrictions with my current strength. Unless, at this point, Palace Master Centaurea paused for a moment before saying in a deep voice, give me another 3 Shengyang pills to increase my strength by several times. Hold on. Isolate the 100-flower formation from the outside world first. Sword of Evil said hurriedly. Give me another 3 Shenyang pills. To think that Palace Master Centaurea would say that. Where was he going to find something as precious as the Shenyang pill? Even great Xia country's Danwu College viewed a Shenyang pill as an utmost treasure. Given his current state, he wouldn't be able to find it. It's not that easy to isolate the aura. Suddenly, Hang Bo forced Ning Yu to retreat and arrived beside Palace Master Centaurea in the blink of an eye. Raising his right hand, Hang Bo smashed towards Palace Master Centaurea's head. Courting death. Upon seeing Hang Bo overestimate himself and attack Palatial Lord Centaurea, all the warriors in the region, including Ning Yu, believed that Hang Bo had gone mad. After all, the palace mistress of the 100 Flowers Palace had already recovered to the initial 8th grade human sovereign realm. If Hang Bo, who was at the late 7th grade human sovereign realm, went to find trouble with her, wouldn't that be no different from courting death? Bang! A crisp sound rang out as a figure rapidly retreated. What? When he saw the face of the retreating figure, Ning Yu's eyes widened and his face was filled with disbelief. This was because the martial artist who had been repelled wasn't Hang Bo, but the palace master of the 100 Flowers Palace. What the hell is going on? Ning Yu couldn't believe that an initial phase 8th grade sovereign like the palatial lord would be defeated by Hang Bo in a single move. Are you kidding me? Damn it. Ning Yu, hurry up and stop Hang Bo. I've only recovered to the early stage 8th grade supreme martial artist on the surface. Cursing inwardly, the palatial lord berated, if you want to get out of this predicament, you have to isolate the 100 Flower formation from the outside world. After that, you have to kill Hang Bo. F***ck, why didn't you say so earlier? As he finished speaking, Ning Yu stomped his feet on the ground and started fighting with Hang Bo once again. Every single move of Ning Yu was filled with his full strength. Ning Yu's objective was clear. He wanted to stop Hang Bo from attacking the Palatial Lord Centaurea. As long as Palatial Lord Centaurea severed the connection between the 100 Flower array and the outside world, Hang Bo would be a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, a grasshopper at the end of autumn. Rumble. Naturally, Ning Yu knew the severity of the situation, and so did Hang Bo. Ning Yu used his full strength in every single move, and so did Hang Bo. He wanted to kill Ning Yu before his aura was isolated, then kill the Palatial Lord Centaurea and the rest. Time was ticking away. An intense battle was happening in Danwu College. Ning Yu and Hang Bo were fighting with all their might, while the Palatial Lord Centaurea stood in front of the 100 Flower formation and waved his hands. Every time the Palatial Lord Centaurea waved his hand, a wave of light would leave his palm and enter the 100 Flower formation. Every time a wave of light came out, the Palatial Lord Centaurea's expression would turn uglier. Overdrafting her life. The Palatial Lord Centaurea was overdrafting her life. In order to isolate the 100 Flower formation from the outside world, the Palatial Lord Centaurea didn't hesitate to overdraft her life. Stop messing around. It's useless. Even if you isolate the 100 Flower formation from the outside world, I can still get out. At this moment, Wu Hai calmed down and said indifferently, the 100 Flower formation can only trap me for 3 hours. After 3 hours, when I break the 100 Flower formation, the first person I'll kill will be you. No. Wu Hai raised his brows and said coldly, I won't kill you. I want to use you as a cauldron. After all, it's hard to meet a beautiful woman with a high cultivation like you. Don't worry. You'll definitely die before I do. The Palatial Lord Centaurea naturally wouldn't be disturbed by Wu Hai. While isolating her aura, she said coldly, 3 hours is enough for us to find a way to kill you. Hehe, there's something I might need to tell you. Smiling, Wu Hai said, actually, you don't have 3 hours because the upper echelons of the Eastern Expedition Army are secretly plotting to break the Pill Cavern of Danwu College. As long as the Pill Cavern is broken, the Pill Puppet Army will completely appear. I'm very curious. Logically speaking, with the capabilities of the Eastern Expedition Army, the Pill Cavern of Danwu College should have been broken long ago. Why are you still saying such things? Asked the Sword of Evil, puzzled. The Pill Cavern of Danwu College could be easily broken. Otherwise, Wu Hai and the rest wouldn't have come out. Now that Wu Hai said that the upper echelons of the Eastern Expedition Army were secretly plotting to break the Pill Cavern, the Sword of Evil was naturally puzzled. "There's no harm in telling you," Wu Hai said indifferently. "The Eastern Expedition Army is divided into two factions. One faction advocates attacking the humans from the Great Xia Kingdom, while the other advocates stabilizing the situation and attacking the humans when the time is right. You guys are the main attackers," said the Sword of Evil coldly. "That's right, we are the main attackers." Nodding his head, Wu Hai said, "As soon as we came out, the other faction completely sealed the Pill Cavern. However, the main attacking faction has more experts, so they decided to break the Pill Cavern from another place." "Another place?" asked the Sword of Evil, puzzled. "Hehe, the other place is right under our feet." Smiling, Wu Hai said, "At most 2 hours, the main attackers will break the Pill Cavern. When that time comes, all of you will die. Seal." At this moment, the palatial Lord Centaurea shouted, completely cutting off the connection between the 100 Flowers array and the outside world. Rumble. In midair, Hangbo lost the directional support of Wu Hai and was directly attacked by Ningyu from all directions. Catcher. In just a few minutes, Ningyu seized the opportunity and stabbed his sword into Hangbo's neck. You, Hangbo extended his right hand and pointed at Ningyu, wanting to say something. However, before the words left his mouth, his body fell backward. Thump. His body hit the ground, sending up a cloud of dust. Chapter 1139. Chapter 1139, Devil's Cave. Haha. Kill then. Just kill as much as you want. Anyway, in 2 hours, the Danwu Academy will become a living hell. Seeing Hangbo's death, Wu Hai raised his brows and smiled. "Let me give you a piece of advice. Get out of Danwu College while there are still 2 hours. Otherwise, your outcome will be tragic. You guys look after Wu Hai first. I'll go help the Dark Emperor." Glaring at Wu Hai, Ningyu stomped on the ground and appeared beside the Dark Emperor in the blink of an eye. The Dark Emperor had a hideous expression and his body was trembling uncontrollably. Fortunately, the Dark Emperor was a purple-gold sky-devouring hound. If it was any other species of demon beast, they would have exploded long ago. Hua Lei was a late-stage 7th grade supreme. It was not easy for the Dark Emperor to last until now. Ningyu was clear that he had to help the Dark Emperor refine the energy in his body. Otherwise, the Dark Emperor would be dead before the Dan Tian army arrived. Buzz. The mid-stage 7th grade soul power in his body poured into the Dark Emperor's body. Spirit transformation art. The spirit transformation art circulated quickly and Ningyu started to help the Dark Emperor refine the energy in his body. Initially, the Dark Emperor's body was trembling uncontrollably. However, as Ningyu's soul power entered, the Dark Emperor gradually calmed down and even his breathing became steady. Half an hour later, Ningyu let out a breath of turbid air and stopped. "How is it?" Seeing Ningyu stop, the talisman Martial Supremacy asked anxiously. "Not much." Retracting his soul power, Ningyu's expression was a little ugly. The situation in the Dark Emperor's body was extremely complicated. It would take at least 3 to 4 hours to completely refine the energy in his body. In the past, Ningyu would have long helped the Dark Emperor refine the energy in his body. However, he could not do it now. Ningyu heard what Wu Hai said clearly. In another 2 hours, no, in another 1.5 hours, the main attackers would break out of the Pill Cavern. By that time, the entire Danwu College would become a living hell. At present, the best solution was to let Palatial Lord Centaurea and the Sword of Evil recover to their peak state as soon as possible. Then, they could join forces to completely seal the Pill Cavern. This was the only way to resolve the current situation. Sword of Evil, Palace Master Centaurea, you guys will need a few Xingyang pills to recover to your peak state. Ningyu didn't beat around the bush. He paused for a moment before continuing. What I mean is, you must recover to your peak state within 1.5 hours. They only had an hour and a half left. If they couldn't seal the Pill Cavern within that time, it would be useless even if the Sword of Evil and Palatial Lord Centaurea recovered to their peak state. 5. Stretching out 5 fingers, the palace mistress said, "With 5 Shenyang pills, I can raise my battle prowess to the late-stage 8th grade sovereign realm in an hour." 10. The Sword of Evil extended 1 finger and said, "Give me 10 Shenyang pills and I can recover to my peak state. My true peak state. Late-stage 8th grade sovereign, peak stage 8th grade sovereign." Ning Yu's expression was extremely solemn. If it was really as the Palace Master Centaurea and the Sword of Evil had said, there was a high chance that they could resolve this crisis. The battle prowess of a peak stage 8th grade sovereign and a late stage 8th grade sovereign was extremely powerful. Ning Yu believed that they could seal the pill cavern together. The sapling can produce Shenyang pills, but the prerequisite is to give it energy. A large amount of energy. An endless supply of energy. Ning Yu's eyes darted around as he racked his brains for a solution. Shenyang pills could only be produced by the sapling. Ning Yu knew very well that even though the sapling was ignoring him now, he believed that the sapling would be happy to produce Shenyang pills as long as he could find a large amount of energy. "Dean Mu, I need energy. A large amount of energy. An enormous amount of energy." This was Danwu College. Since Ning Yu needed energy, he naturally had to seek Mu Feng's help. "I've taken out all the resources of Danwu College, but they've all been devoured by her." Mu Feng's face was a little ugly as he pointed at the Palace Master Centaurea. "That Shenyang pill is the utmost treasure of Danwu College. Even if we sell Danwu College, we won't be able to gather 15 Shenyang pills. Even if Mu Feng were to go get another Shenyang pill, he wouldn't be able to do anything, let alone 15 Shenyang pills. Ha ha ha. 15 Shenyang pills. I've got to say that you guys are really crazy." Within the 100-flower formation, Wu Hai laughed maniacally. 15 Shenyang pills? To think that you guys can even say that. The Eastern Expedition Army has only managed to gather 3 Shenyang pills after fighting for so long. To think that you guys would ask for 15 Shenyang pills. Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue? Around the capital, are there any cave abodes of predecessors, Dharma treasures left behind by experts, or sealed pill formulas or whatnot? Ning Yu asked, unwilling to give up. The situation right now was clear. If they couldn't find any energy, everyone would die. I seem to recall Dong He mentioning that there's a place around the capital that might contain a large amount of energy. Suddenly, Mu Feng slapped his head. "I'll get Dong He over right now. There's no need for that. You guys wait here first. I'll head over with the Sword of Evil and the rest." Waving it off, Ning Yu gestured for Mu Feng to not follow. There had to be a lot of energy. A lot of it. If they couldn't attract the attention of the sapling, they wouldn't be able to get it to produce Shenyang pills. If they couldn't produce Shenyang pills, the Sword of Evil and Palace Master Bai Hua wouldn't be able to recover to their peak condition. If the Sword of Evil and Palace Master Bai Hua couldn't recover to their peak condition, everyone would be doomed. Talisman Supremacy, I'll have to trouble you to stay and take care of the Dark Emperor while I'm not around. Regardless of whether I succeed or not, I'll be back in an hour and a half. Before leaving, Ning Yu didn't forget to chat with the Talisman Supremacy for a bit. The Talisman Supremacy was a pinnacle grade 5 human supreme. She might have some trump cards up her sleeves. Ning Yu felt more at ease letting her stay and take care of the Dark Emperor. "Ning Yu, I'll wait here. Remember to collect their corpses in an hour and a half." Wu Hai said in a clear voice as he looked at Ning Yu and Venerable Sword Evil's departing figures. Sure. Ning Yu didn't care about Wu Hai's words. The first thing he did after leaving the courtyard was to look for Dong He. Towards the east of the capital. Flying at full speed, it'll take about 5 minutes. Dong He knew the severity of the problem. When Ning Yu asked him about it, he immediately replied, "That cave is called the Demonic Ghost Cave. There's a rumor in the Alchemy Union that the Devil's Cave belongs to the Demonic Ghost Venerable. When the Demonic Ghost Venerable was alive, he was in the upper echelon of the Mystic Moon Continent's Alchemy Union. He had the cultivation of an Earth Supreme. I'm not concerned about the Demonic Ghost Venerable's cultivation. I'm concerned about whether there's any terrifying energy in the Devil's Cave," Ning Yu said solemnly. The Demonic Ghost Venerable was a grade 9 alchemist when he was alive. Chapter 1140. Devil's Son, and there's no time to lose. Let's depart now. There was less and less time left for Ningyu. He could not afford to waste a single minute. Every minute they wasted meant an extra minute of danger. I'll bring palatial Mistress Centaurea. You bring Xielan to the Devil's Cave. Catcher. The space in front of him suddenly cracked open as Ningyu grabbed palatial Lord Centaurea and entered. Seeing that Ningyu had left, Dong he did not dare to be slow. He hurriedly took the Sword of Evil and followed closely behind Ningyu. Whoosh! Whoosh! Ningyu and Dong his speed was not slow. After leaving the capital, they immediately rushed towards the Devil's Cave. Under Dong his lead, Ningyu shuttled left and right, his movements unpredictable. In the blink of an eye, 3 minutes passed. What's going on? Didn't you say it was only 3 minutes away? Ningyu's face darkened. How was this the Devil's Cave? It was clearly a plain. There was not a single tree in the surroundings, and one could see the end of it with a single glance. I did say that it's only 3 minutes away, but there are people following behind us. We need to shake them off before we can reach the Devil's Cave. Dong his face was also very ugly. The Devil Venerable was one of the higher-ups of the Alchemy Union, so it was highly possible that his cave contained a 9th-grade pill formula. No one knew who had leaked the news, but it led to people following behind them, wanting to get a share of the loot. In fact, Dong he was very puzzled. Logically speaking, there should only be 3 people who knew about this, and 2 of them had already been killed by Dan Kai. In other words, only he knew that the Devil's Cave was the cave of the Devil Lord. How did the others know about this? Someone's following you? Upon hearing Dong his words, Ningyu hurriedly extended his perception. Since they wanted to go to the Devil's Cave, Ningyu didn't use his perception, so he didn't notice anyone following them. There really is someone. As soon as he released his perception, Ningyu's face darkened to the extreme. That's because the cultivators behind them weren't ordinary cultivators. Their cultivations had all reached the 5th-grade sovereign realm. There was even an illusory figure that even his perception couldn't detect. Ignore them, let's continue to the Devil's Cave. After pondering for a moment, Ningyu sent a soul message to Donghe. As long as we can find the energy to restore the Sword of Evil and the Palace Mistress of the 100 Flowers to their peak state, we can kill these Tom, Dick, and Harry with a flip of our hands. Go. Since Ningyu had spoken, Donghe decided not to go around in circles. Instead, he dashed towards the Devil's Cave at an astonishing speed. This time, their goal was clear, and their speed was extremely fast. After only 2 minutes, Ningyu and Donghe stopped in front of a cave. This is the Devil's Cave. Looking at the pitch-black cave in front of him, Ningyu's jaw dropped. His face was filled with disbelief. The reason why Ningyu was shocked was not because the cave was dark, but because he found no less than 5 restrictive spells at the entrance. How much time would it take to decipher so many restrictive spells? That's right, this is the Devil's Cave. Nodding, Donghe said in a low voice, there are 5 restrictive spells at the entrance of the Devil's Cave. I can decipher 3 of them, but I can't decipher the last 2. Then what are we waiting for? Hurry up and decipher the first 2 restrictive spells. Ningyu said hurriedly. No matter what, they had to first decipher the restrictive spells that could be deciphered. As for the remaining 2 restrictive spells, they could think of a way to decipher them later. Take a few steps back. Donghe waved his hands, and in a split second, a cold light shot out. Swoosh. The cold light was extremely fast, arriving at the entrance of the Devil's Cave in the blink of an eye. Rumble. Suddenly, the cold light exploded. The first restrictive spell was deciphered. Swoosh. Swoosh. Following that, 2 more cold lights shot out from Donghe's body, arriving at the entrance of the Devil's Cave. Rumble. Rumble. 2 similar explosions rang out, and the second and third restrictive spells were deciphered. Now, there were only 2 restrictive spells left at the entrance of the Devil's Cave. And these 2 restrictive spells were the hardest to decipher. Donghe had no idea where to start. I'll try to decipher them with brute force. In order to decipher the restrictive spells as soon as possible, Ningyu gathered the Yuan Qi in his sea of consciousness on his wrist. His body shot out, and he threw a punch at the devil's cave. Bang! The result made Ningyu feel a little hopeless. If it weren't for his quick reflexes, the rebound from the fourth restrictive spell would have been enough to end his life. Let's try my soul force. Since brute force wouldn't work, Ningyu separated a portion of his soul force and approached the devil's cave, wanting to use it to decipher the restrictive spells. However, just as Ningyu's soul force was released, a faint voice rang out. Don't waste your energy. The fourth and fifth restrictive spells can only be deciphered with a specialized scroll. A second grade supreme like you won't be able to do it. When this voice rang out, the surrounding void suddenly split open, and several figures appeared. Whoosh! In an instant, several figures descended and surrounded Ningyu's group. Very good. You're a second grade supreme, Donghe is a first grade supreme, and there are 2 useless 8th grade supreme. The middle-aged man in the lead slowly swept his gaze across Ningyu's group, and said calmly, since I've found the Devil's Cave as your leader, in order to repay you, I've decided to grind your bones to ashes. Who are you? Donghe's face darkened as he berated. You don't need to know who I am. All you need to know is that I'm the same as you, from the Alchemy Union. The middle-aged man's lips curled up, and he said sinisterly, it's just that you belong to the Black Moon continent, while we come from the Dancheng continent. What? The Dancheng continent? Donghe's eyes widened in shock. The entire Alchemy Union's headquarters in the Heavenly Devil region was located in the Dancheng continent. The Demon Lord was one of the higher-ups of the Black Moon continent branch, and he didn't have much of a relationship with the headquarters of the Dancheng continent. A long time ago, the Alchemy Union branch in the Black Moon continent had a conflict with the headquarters of the Alchemy Union in the Dancheng continent. At that time, the headquarters of the Alchemy Union had already wanted to abolish the Alchemy Union branch in the Black Moon continent. It was only because of the Demon Lord's intervention that the Alchemy Union branch in the Black Moon continent continued to exist. As a result, the Demon Lord had offended quite a few people. The heavens are merciful. As long as you kneel down and kowtow to me a few times, then cripple your cultivation, I can consider sparing your lives. The middle-aged man shrugged and said, otherwise, I'll have to send you to heaven. If I'm not wrong, you're a late 7th grade supreme. With a flick of his wrist, Ningyu took out the red demon sword. Let me give you a piece of advice. Not long ago, I killed 5 late 7th grade supreme. If you know what's good for you, help me break the 4th and 5th restriction as soon as possible. Otherwise, at this point, Ningyu paused for a moment, then said in a cold tone, you will be the 6th late 7th grade supreme that I've killed today. Chapter 1141. A precious treasure. Halfway through his words, Sun Devil Pill's expression suddenly changed and he hastily retreated. Because Sun Devil Pill discovered that Ningyu had unknowingly arrived in front of him. Furthermore, Ningyu's right hand was clenched into a fist and fiercely punched towards his head. Damn it! At such a close distance, it was hard for Devil Sun Dan to dodge Ningyu's powerful attack. Cursing inwardly, Master Pill Devil also clenched his right hand into a fist and punched out. Catcher! A crisp sound rang through the air. Dan Devil's face became extremely ferocious and his body was sent flying several feet away. Poochie. Fresh blood sprayed out of his mouth. Devil Dan clenched his fists and locked his gaze onto Ningyu. He wanted nothing more than to rush forward and kill Ningyu. You're definitely not a grade 2 supreme martial artist. The way Devil Sun Dan saw it, the reason he was injured by Ningyu was because he was careless. On the other hand, Ningyu was hiding his cultivation. He was a late-stage 7th grade supreme martial artist. If Ningyu's cultivation was at 2nd grade supreme martial artist, it would be impossible for him to injure him, not even a sneak attack. I'm sorry, I'm indeed a grade 2 supreme being. Shrugging his shoulders, Ningyu said, you're just an ordinary late-phase 7th grade sovereign. I don't even need to use my full strength to kill you. Got it. Suddenly, Devilish Dan seemed to have remembered something. His eyes widened and a look of shock appeared on his face. 5 absolute geniuses. These words appeared in Prince Dan's mind. Only one of the 5 ultimate heavens would be able to contend against him with a cultivation of 2nd grade mortal supremacy. I didn't expect you to be one of the 5 great geniuses. Devil Prince Dan's face darkened. Sundan Fiend had seen the terror of the 5 ultimate geniuses before. In the headquarters of the Alchemy Union, there was one of the 5 absolute geniuses. That genius from the 5 ultimates was the same as Ningyu, a second-grade sovereign. Back then, Devil Sundan had fought against that genius. Unfortunately, Devil Sundan couldn't even withstand one move and was defeated. Now that he had met another genius of the 5 ultimates, how could Sundan Fiend not be shocked? Go, all of you go. I'll reward anyone who can kill him with a high-grade medicinal pill. Even though Ningyu was one of the top 5 geniuses, Devil Sundan would not give up. Inside the Devil Lord's cave, there was a treasure. The reason why Sun Devil Dan had come all the way from the Pill Formation continent to the Mystic Moon continent's Grand Shia Kingdom was for that treasure. If he gave up now, everything would go back to square one. After pondering for a moment, Prince Dan Devil started to lure the surrounding 5th-grade mortal supremes and gave them empty promises. Voila! Devil Sun Dan's empty promise was very useful. As soon as he finished speaking, all the 5th-stage human supremes in the area moved out. The goal of these 5th-grade supreme experts was very clear, that was to kill Ningyu. Courting death. Being besieged by so many 5th-grade mortal sovereigns, Ningyu's eyes flashed with ferocity. Since you're seeking death, I'll fulfill your wish. Holding the red devil sword in his hand, Ningyu injected the Yuan Qi in his sea of consciousness into it and dashed out. Good chance. Seeing Ningyu fighting with the 5th-grade mortal supremes, Devil Sun Dan raised his eyebrows and immediately tore through space to arrive in front of the devil's cave. He took out a scroll from his bosom and dripped a drop of blood on it, then quickly threw it out. Bang! With a muffled sound, the scroll suddenly exploded. At this moment, the 4th restriction spell was broken. With the same action, Devil Sun Dan took out another scroll and dripped a drop of blood on it. Bang! When the second muffled sound was heard, Devil Sun Dan's body also became illusory. In the blink of an eye, Devil Sun Dan disappeared, leaving behind a gust of wind. From the moment Devil Sun Dan tried to break the restriction spell to the moment he disappeared, only a few seconds had passed. Ningyu, Devil Sun Dan has entered the Devil's Cave. When Dong he saw Devil Sun Dan disappear, his expression changed greatly as he shouted anxiously, "Die for me!" Devil Sun Dan's actions were all seen by Ningyu. But in such a short period of time, he had no way of killing so many 5th-grade mortal supremes. According to his estimation, it would take him at least 3 minutes to kill the dozen 5th-grade mortal supremes that Devil Sun Dan brought. In less than 3 minutes, he would have to heavily injure them. I have to kill them. Leaving them alive will always be a problem. With a ferocious look in his eyes, Ningyu started to communicate with the law of space, and his body disappeared in an instant. Ningyu's principle was that if the enemy did not offend him, he would not offend them. If the enemy offended him, he would kill them. Moreover, these were the 5th-grade mortal supremes that Devil Sun brought. If Ningyu did not kill them, they would definitely kill Ningyu. He could show mercy to others, but he could not show mercy to these people. Crack! Using the law of space, Ningyu jumped back and forth in the air. Every time he appeared, a 5th-grade mortal supremes would be killed. Quick, retreat, he is too strong. Yes, quickly enter the Devil's Cave and rely on the formation inside to deal with him. Devil Sun Dan is in the Devil's Cave, it is best for us to enter now. Puff. Before the last 5th-grade mortal supremes could finish his sentence, he spat out a mouthful of blood and died on the spot. Crack, crack, crack. In the next 3 minutes, Ningyu used the law of space to kill all the 5th-grade mortal supremes. Let's go. Ningyu did not hesitate at all. After killing all the 5th-grade mortal supremes, he grabbed Palace Mistress Bai Hua and the Sword of Evil and entered the Devil's Cave. Whoosh! With Ningyu behind him, Dong he did not dare to stay behind alone. Dong he was only a 1st-grade mortal supremes, and his strength was extremely weak. If a few more 5th-grade mortal supremes appeared, wouldn't he die? In any case, Ningyu was very strong. Rather than staying behind, he might as well follow Ningyu. It would be safer. Cold. The first thing they felt upon entering the Devil's Cave was cold, abnormally cold. This kind of cold was not an ordinary kind, but the kind that penetrated deep into their bones. Kai. In order to resist this kind of cold, Ningyu and Dong he could only force their elemental energy out of their bodies and burn it to keep warm. How much do you know about the Devil's Cave? Ningyu asked as they entered the Devil's Cave. Since Dong he knew the exact location of the Devil's Cave, it was very likely that he knew the situation inside. Not much. I only know that the Devil's Cave is divided into 2 regions. The region we are currently in is the outer region of the Devil's Cave, so it is unavoidable that it is a little cold. After sorting out his thoughts, Dong he said, as long as we can pass through the outer region, we can enter the inner region. The Devil Lord's many years of savings are all in the inner region, including that treasure. Looks like Devil Sundan and the rest are also here for the Devil Lord's treasure. Can you tell me what that treasure is? Ningyu asked curiously. The Devil Lord was a 9th grade alchemist when he was alive, so the treasure he left behind would definitely not be simple. Otherwise, it would not have attracted the attention of Devil Sundan and the rest. From what I know, that treasure can increase a genius talent. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,